sauce. Bill Buck, give me the hot sauce.
What are you doing, Dragic? Did you not get the memo? Derrick Rose can go upstairs.
Hey, welcome into a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. We are rolling out all the heavy hitters today in studio. The radio voice, the Chicago Bulls, Chuck Swirsky, kind enough to join us today. Chuck, you were able to negotiate that traffic and get out here. It's just a crazy day out there.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So Chuck's going to help us out, talk about the Bulls. We got the NFL draft. Stacey, how you doing today?
You know what, Mark? I was really great yesterday. The sun was shining. It was like 75 degrees. I was happy just getting that vitamin D. And then I woke up today. It was overcast. It was raining. It was chilly. I had to go back to sweats today. I'm a little disappointed in the way the weather was today. And then the traffic, as Chuck said, was awful. It's almost like, okay, it's two different things that happen in Chicago. When it's snowing, there's black ice, they're going 100 miles an hour, which I can't understand. And with black ice on the ground and all snow and slush, everything, when it's really the worst element, they're going 100 miles an hour. But as soon as it rains, it's like it's acid rain. Like they don't want to get their car, the paint go off their car, Mark. So they go 5 miles an hour. They try to hide up under bridges. And it's like, are you serious? Like, I was almost in 2 accidents today in the suburbs up in Libertyville today. So I'm a little frazzled right now, a little frazzled.
Of course, Whispers has his Tesla out there, so he's always protected, right?
Well, there was a nice big bird crap right in the middle of the top of the car, so I'm glad the rain came to rinse it off.
Leave it to Whispers to just bring the show down as always.
Well, I ain't gonna lie though. Hey, listen,
what I do.
Listen, I got dive bombed a couple of times myself. I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, it was 75 degrees. I had to go wash my car. The bird just crapped on my car, my white car. I'm like, okay. So then the day it rained, I'm like,
they do know it.
Yeah, they do.
I'm certain of it. They spot them.
Hey, Mark, can I just make one statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we've seen Stacey with the Expos hat, and I love the Montreal Expos, the expansion 69 Expos, where the PA announcer would go, John Buccabella. Well, Stacey has got the Clemente Stargell Pirates Buccos hat.
And he's got a matching jacket. He looks like Willie Stargell.
I love it.
Reincarnated.
With that bat where he would take it.
That 79 series against the Orioles.
Oh,
that was
my
a
gosh.
classic.
The Orioles had a 3-1 series lead. Pittsburgh came back. Clemente was awesome in right field. But Willie Stargell would use his bat, Stacey, like a toothpick.
Yeah,
I mean, he would just take it.
That was a fun team to watch.
Oh, I loved it.
And Roberto Clemente is the reason why we're number 21.
Really?
Big fan. Yep.
I did not know that.
That's the reason why I couldn't get 33 because Scotty was trying to hold me hostage when I first came in.
Oh, you had negotiations?
I was 33. I was 33 all my whole life from little kid all the way up to college. I got to the Bulls. They asked me what jersey I wanted. I said 33. They said, well, we're going to have to talk to Scotty about that. And then the negotiations fell through after the first conversation. I want $500,000. You can keep that damn jersey. You can keep that damn jersey.
That number's good.
So then the Bulls just took it upon themselves to give me 34. They just gave it to me. They didn't ask me what other number I wanted. It said here 34 because it's close to 33. So I wore 34 the first year. And I didn't like it, but I did like it because 34 is also Len Bias's number. I was a big fan of Len Bias.
Walter Payton?
No, it wasn't Walter Payton. No, it was all basketball. It was strictly Len Bias. That's why I took 34 an hour. I wore it proudly, but I was like, I just didn't feel comfortable in that number. So then I switched to my second favorite number, which was 21 for Roberto Clemente. And again, you see me with different baseball caps on America. You know, I love the old vintage hats, the old days hats. Those are really, really cool. So I got a nice collection. I mean, if you touch me again, I'm hitting you in the head with the microphone, okay?
That's
First
nice.
off,
It all matches.
This is very nice. This is very nice. See, you got the little black.
Are you going to break out in a rap here?
You got the black shirt on with the little.
Well, it is Gimme the Hot Sauce.
Yes, it is. Listen, we got drip here. I bring the show up with my drip, okay? I'm always wearing something fresh.
Yes.
But see, this guy, he wears the tight shirt where you can see his heart beating. I'm not much on the tight clothes. I'm not much on the tight jeans. He wears tight jeans and. Listen, it's not pretty, okay? When you walk around and you're sitting around here and you see your nipples hard, and I don't like that, America. I don't like that, America. Loosen up the shirt up. Loosen up the shirt. Loosen up the jeans there, Whispers.
We got the air on.
Are you happy to see? I meet Whispers outside where he's got his tight jeans on. I said, well, Whisper, you happy to see me? Oh, no. Put that thing away, Whispers.
Hey, it's NFL draft weekend. And we got a special guest standing by, our good friend Mark Grody. He's helped us through the years, doing great coverage on The Score, covering the Bears on a day-to-day basis. We are taping on a Friday, so if you're watching on Monday, we're only going to talk about the first pick because that's all we know right now. It's Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan. My son is a graduate of Michigan, and I know Chuck's a proud Wolverine guy, and we're excited about Colston Loveland coming here, but a bit of a surprise. What was your reaction?
Yeah, that was my first reaction, guys. I was surprised because I, like a lot of people, thought that they were going to go Tyler Warren, that they would take the tight end out of Penn State at that spot. I was very aware of Colston Loveland because he had gained a lot of momentum over the last couple of weeks from the draft experts. And so while it was surprising, you can definitely talk yourself into this player. Great size, 6'6", 248. He can play like a wide receiver. I mean, he's got that type of build. He's got that type of separation. And now Ben Johnson can do what he likes to do best, and that's play a lot more 12 personnel with the two tight ends, with the running back and two wide receivers. So on the overall, guys, it's a good pick.
Well, when you get to that point, all the people they had on their board were gone. So, they were looking for the next best player to fit into their system, their offensive system. So you can kind of understand why they went that direction. I like Loveland. I think he's going to be phenomenal here because the tight ends now have gone, Mark, and could you agree to this? The tight ends now have gone from just being these bulky blocking type of guys that can't get separation to these wide receiver, like these H-back type of guys that can get downfield, stretch the field out, 30, 40 yards and be more like receivers. Do you see the same way these tight ends are going that way?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I was talking about it on our Score Draft show that I kind of compare the tight end position to the running back position these days. While most teams and scouts still don't consider them to be premium elite positions in the league, it's really cool when you have a good one. We saw it. We've seen it with the Rob Gronkowskis of the world. We've seen what Travis Kelce has been able to do. And, the running back, we saw what Saquon Barkley meant to a Super Bowl winning team last year. So I don't know if the Bears have one of those guys, but he definitely fits the mold of one of those dudes who could be. I mean, it's not like, as I look at the Bears depth chart right now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that your top three pass catchers, your top three receivers could be DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Colston Loveland, because of where they can use this guy. He did do a lot of inline stuff at Michigan, but because that's what was required, that's what they run at Michigan. We know that they love to run the football, but Colston Loveland is going to be here with the Bears to catch the football. Yeah, he's going to have to learn how to be a better blocker, but as Ryan Poles said, he said kind of low key, take a look. His run blocking is actually pretty good, but make no mistake about it. He's here to be that move tight end, that U tight end where you can line him up in all sorts of different places. Ideally, that's what he is.
I got 2 points. Number one, general managers always say, I can't believe he was on the board. We hear that in all sports. Yeah. Anyway, having said that, I think Ashton Jenney was the guy they really, really wanted. And maybe the Raiders decided we're going to keep him, but they wanted, if they're going to make a trade, they wanted to get more than just, we're going to flip picks. We're going to give you a third. We're going to give you a sixth. I think they were hoping to get 2 1s for him. And I
think Chuck too, part of that is that Jacksonville kind of went off the ranch a little bit. Some of the pre-reports that were happening that we were getting in our Score studios last night were that the at Jacksonville, which originally at number 5, was looking to potentially do business with the Bears at 10, where the Bears would move up to, in theory, get Ashton Jenney. Instead, the Jaguars end up doing business with Cleveland at number 2, and they pick up Travis Hunter. So basically, if you were dreaming of the running back Ashton Jenney, and it would appear that Chuck Swirsky was dreaming about Ashton Jenney, that would have been the path, and I think the path was pulled out from under their feet.
I agree with that. So, Stacey and Mark, having said all this, guys, I think this was Ben Johnson's draft pick. I think Loveland is a hybrid tight end, and I think Ben Johnson is so creative. I mean, this is football team, and I think he sat down with Ryan Poles and said, "I need this guy." And even if Warren and Loveland were close, there's 35 miles separation from where the Lions train and the University of Michigan, and if anyone knows what's going on with Michigan football and the sets that Jim Harbaugh ran, because he recruited this kid, there's no question this is Ben Johnson's team.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Chuck. I mean, it's a great point, and we all suspected that Ben Johnson was going to have a little bit more say than perhaps his predecessors, in particular Matt Eberflus. They're always going to take into account what the coach has to say, but it probably carries a little bit more weight with somebody like Ben Johnson, who completely turned around what was a dead offense in Detroit for years. We all know about that. The franchise was an absolute joke. And then all of a sudden, between Dan Campbell and what Ben Johnson was able to do there, and in particular with the tight end position. I mean, he was great at working with the tight ends in Detroit, obviously with the running backs as well. So, yeah, I agree with you, Chuck. He had to have had his paws and fingerprints all over this move, did Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I look at Loveland almost like a Laporte. I think that's how they're going to use him.
That's the comp, Chuck. That's it. Yeah, I mean, even Ben Johnson said it. He said, "You're my Sam Laporta," even though, he kind of said to us prior to that, "Hey, this is the Bears. We're not doing what we did in Detroit." Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Do what you did in Detroit. That's all good, man. Make Colston Loveland your Sam Laporta. I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with Ben Johnson saying that, because he did say that.
Mark, we cover the post-game locker room, and one of the classiest guys on the team is Cole Kmet. And there were a lot of times I know that he was kind of biting his tongue. He wasn't getting a lot of passes, particularly the second half of the season. And he would be a good soldier. He'd be in front of his locker, and he'd say the right things. I wonder if you could kind of get into his head. What's he got to be thinking now that they're bringing in a high-profile tight end? I know they're going to play 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, but has he got to be thinking to himself, now where am I going to get any passes?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a little bit unnerving for him, the idea that they bring him in. But I think that, the 12 personnel thing, look, I've been saying, we all love Cole Kmet, but there was an on-field chemistry issue last year between Caleb Williams and Cole Kmet. And yes, we can blame the coaching staff all day, and they probably do own some of the culpability for how things went last year. But at some point in time, you have to look at the player. And some of it's got to go on Caleb Williams. There were times when we saw Cole Kmet wide open, but there were other times where he just, for whatever reason, there wasn't a comfortable fit with those two. Now, I think that if they do this right, that, of course, Colston Loveland's probably going to be your number one pass target, but then there's some comfort with Cole Kmet being that inline guy. He's a good blocker. And I would like to think, too, that if Ben Johnson is what we all think he is, you should be able to make Cole Kmet better as well and scheme that tight end open as well, and him be the guy opposite in terms of the volume of throws to him, opposite of Colston Loveland. So I actually think that this works out better for Cole Kmet, even, that now you have somebody else who gives the appearance of being a threat besides Cole Kmet and some of the receivers that they have.
We know how deep the Packers and the Bears rivalry is. I mean, it runs very, very deep. And, I was watching yesterday when Clay Matthews got up there and said he had a message from the president, Donald Trump, and then he reads this letter, this text or something that supposedly comes from Donald Trump. And it said, the Bears still suck. And it was a message to all the teams in the NFL. The Bears still suck, and all the fans in in Lambeau Field went crazy. And I was just like, okay, now it's on. Now it's personal. Now it's personal. Now if you're the Bears, if you're the Bears organization and the coaching staff and the players, it got personal really, really quick.
It got personal for me. I lost my mind in the moment on the air. I almost went Sanford and Son.
Elizabeth, I'm coming.
I can't have it.
It was crazy, Mark. I was just like, I knew he was going to say something crazy, but I didn't know he would go off the rails like that.
Yeah, but it wasn't Donald Trump.
It was the fact that he even mentioned that Donald Trump reached out to him and told him personally, I want you to read this message to the American people about the Bears suck. And I took it personal.
I think that was embellished.
I took it personal, Mark. I was ready. I said, listen, if the Bears didn't watch this, the players didn't watch this, the organization, I'd be playing that in loop in anytime Packer week.
Let me give you one other Sanford and Son line that I was thinking about. Here was the line that I was thinking about when Fred Sanford, when the aunt would come over.
Yeah.
I remember a line that he said. He looked at her and he goes, Oh, I thought I flushed the toilet. That's what I'm saying to the Green Bay Packers when I see them. Oh, wait a minute. I see you, Green Bay. I thought I flushed the toilet. You're
You know
still
what, though?
here?
I think it's very healthy, though, because it not only allows people to get to the bottom line on this rivalry. It is the best in sports at the collegiate level, pro level, Bears and Packers. Okay, I get that. Having said that, when he mentioned, I was all in on that. Not that the Bears suck, because I love the Bears, but I just think it's really, really good now to have two franchises get after it. Because what was it, Ben Johnson's press conference, where he said, yeah, I love competing against Laporte because he beat him twice, right?
LaFleur mentioned that this morning. He was doing a national interview, and he goes, well, they got a great coach. At least Ben thinks he is.
Yes.
So he said that this morning on ESPN.
Really?
Listen,
So the rivalry is strong.
I was great with the rivalry. I was great with everything until he said the president reached out to him.
Yeah.
When he said that took it past personal. That's like coming in your house, walking in, slapping your mom, your dad, and then taking a drumstick and eating it in front of you and then walking out. I'll be back next week. Okay? That's what I took it as, Mark.
Yeah.
That was personal. I was hot.
They had just done this really nice thing on Steve McMichael,
Yes.
the Walter Payton Award, and then Clay Matthews goes off the ranch. So he's on my list.
He was rogue. I don't even think Green Bay, the Packer organization, knew he was going to say that.
No, I don't think
so. Because he came off like really mild, like, oh, Roger, thank you, Roger. I just have one more thing to say, Roger. So I was like, okay. I expect him to say, hey, we're going to beat the Bears next year. I don't care who you draft. But, man, he went absolutely like rogue, like Jason Bourne rogue. Like, he just went rogue, bro. I was like, is anybody else watching this? Because I didn't see anything like any Bears fans talk about it on Twitter. Because I tweeted something about it. I'm like, okay, it's on now. It's on.
It's
if
on.
you're not mad, if you're not upset, I don't know what else can make you upset.
Today on NFL Network, they took a whole segment on this. You would never know that the Green Bay Packers had a draft pick. Everyone was talking about Clay Matthews and his introduction at the 25 draft. I mean, it was bizarre. No one was talking about the draft pick. Hey, Green Bay, they've done a great job hosting the event. They had 250,000 people there. The town's 100,000. People were talking about Matthews.
Yeah.
The Bears suck.
Hey,
I'm
listen.
thinking, what?
I could have lived with just him saying the Bears suck. Okay, I could have lived with that. But when you said the president called you, just reached out to you of all people and said, I want you to give this message to the American people. And then you read that out there to everybody. I was like, okay, that's on now, man. I'm getting ready to go put on a Bears uniform, get out there just on Green Bay week. I just want to tackle somebody.
Well, you know, he
Lil
had
Wayne
the White
being
House
his accomplice
stationary.
too. Come on.
What'd you say, Mark?
Lil Wayne was his accomplice.
Yeah, he was
too.
there,
I'm
yeah.
disappointed to see that.
I'm disappointed in Wayne. Oh,
Right?
He's a huge Packer fan, but I think
Yeah.
he jumped on the bandwagon when they were winning. Come on. Oh.
Typical Packers fan.
Hey, Mark, before we let you go, we know it's a real busy time for you. Look into your crystal ball. As we mentioned, we're taping on Friday afternoon. This is going to air on the Chicago Sports Network on Monday. So when the dust settles, who are the Bears going to add? We got a Michigan guy. Might we get Travion Henderson in round 2? We know they're going to get an offensive tackle and an edge at some point. You think they'll get another weapon in terms of a running back, a really fast running back like Travion Henderson?
Yeah, I mean, I do love the speed of Travion Henderson, but it would be pretty tempting to consider if he's still there for the Bears at 2, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Quinshawn Judkins, another guy. So I think I've covered myself. I just named 3 potential running backs. I just want to make sure I'm covered.
We can edit it to make you look really smart, Mark.
I do think. What's that, Mark?
We can edit. We'll make sure you get the right pick.
No, I appreciate it. And then on the edge, as we are speaking right now, there's a gentleman by the name of Mike Green out of Marshall who had 17 sacks last year. If they can get through some of the off the field stuff, some of the allegations that have been made in his past, then that looks like one of those potential wild card prospects who we may be looking at later and saying, how was that guy a second round pick?
Mark, one more question before we let you go. What do you think about the Shedeur Sanders slide, going from a potential top 5 pick to completely out of the first round?
It's wild. And I sort of saw the evolution of this, Stacey, throughout the process because I've obviously been following the draft since the season ended. He was a top 5 pick in all the mock drafts. It was only like 3 weeks ago where I was asking one of the draft experts, is it possible that this guy drops out of the top 10? Which seemed ludicrous even at the time. And then there he goes out of the first round. Unfortunately for him, and I don't know if this is fair, it's such a touchy subject with reporters and people that consume the draft. There have been people that have written some nasty things about his character, about calling him selfish, just calling him a bad quarterback in general. And these are some anonymous sources as well. So, that can do serious damage to a guy's career and to a guy's life. So to me, it's one of those very touchy subjects. I don't have that information, so I'm just going on what people are saying. But I sure hope that whoever is revealing these sources, I sure hope that they're right, or else they're screwing with this guy's career.
Well, see, that's the one thing I don't like about that is that you can do a character assassination on a person and not put your name on it.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah.
like that. I think that's unfair. I mean, anybody could go out there and say the man who sold him ice cream when he was a 6-year-old child could go out there and say, make some stories up about him and say anonymous that, oh, he's a bad character. He didn't, he's not a good teammate. You don't hear any of his teammates saying that. You don't hear any of the coaches I know his dad is the head coach.
Right.
I just find it so strange that this guy goes in and being on everybody's draft board, top 5, no
Yeah.
worse than top 10. And teams who need quarterbacks. I mean, New York needed a quarterback. They go down and they go, trade to get Jackson Dart up from Ole Miss. And Shedeur Sanders was rated higher than him. And now you're sitting there, this kid's in the second round, and it's like you look like Aaron Rodgers and those guys who were projected first round picks that slipped out late first rounds or out of the first round. It's kind of like that. And I hope he goes somewhere where he can prove all these doubters wrong. If there's anything anything about this kid from what I've seen from the public eye, I've seen is that he has motivation. He's a guy that's everywhere he's went. He's always had to prove himself. He's had to prove himself because he's Deion Sanders' kid. And he's won every place he's been at. So they talk about, oh, he holds the ball too long. Oh, he taps the ball. You start hearing all these little bitty excuses. I watch pro quarterbacks touch the ball, slap the ball, tap the ball. And I'm like, he's not doing anything different than a pro quarterback does, but you're going to make it a big issue about him. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think that, in general, there is a place in reporting to cite sources. But when you're talking about character and you're talking about a college player trying to get into the pros, I think you got to be really careful and you better be really sure about it. The stuff that you were talking about with slapping the foot, I don't have as much of an issue with that. Like anything on the field, because you guys have read scouting reports.
Yep.
It's incredible. A list of 30 strengths, and then they'll give you 30 weaknesses that go. Everybody gets that. That is not unique to Shedeur Sanders. So I think that that's fair game, and those guys typically put their name on it. But it's such a, and I'm glad I learned this. I think in the last few years to be really careful. Even now, when some of the stuff came up about Caleb Williams this past year, some reports about him being goofy in the locker room and stuff like that. It's not something I'm going to run with unless I see it myself. And for the record, that's another thing that I didn't see that people were alluding to in the whispers that were going on when we would hear things about that. I just wanted to inject you into things there, whispers.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
there you
sure.
go.
Then I got a question for you based on that.
Okay.
Because I love your analytical mind. Is there anything to do in the draft with somebody's name? So if you look at like these great quarterbacks of the past, they always have a name that sounds like they're a sheriff of a town in an old western, right? Whatever, it's Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought Colt McCoy was going to be a great quarterback.
Oh,
Didn't work
yeah.
out. But that's why Mitchell Trubisky wasn't. So, but then you look at some of these names, and then you look at, is it shifting towards any given Sunday type of naming convention because Jackson Dart moved up? Sounds like a quarterback from a movie, right? But is there anything from that? Like, is it sometimes based on a name? Do you think there's any value in that?
Just like
You know
whispers.
what,
Just like
whispers, you might have just stumped me because my answer to your question
He does
is,
it every week.
I have no idea.
That's whispers for you. He brings
I
every
love it,
interview
though.
to a grinding
I love
halt.
it.
Yeah, I tell you.
We got 2 Coles now for tight end, so there's something to it, right?
Oh my goodness. See, that's why
You
we
are
take his mic
hilarious.
away.
Hey,
Mark.
we want to encourage everyone to check out the Take the North podcast that Mark does great work with Dan Wiederer. Check that out. They cover
Thank you.
the Bears 365 days a year, so check that out on Odyssey and other platforms. And Mark, we appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again as we get closer to the season.
Friend of the program, baby. Friend
I
of the
will just
program.
say, what was that, Stace?
Friend of the program, baby. Mark Brody, friend of the program.
Always. I love being a friend of this program. I'm honored to be it, but I will say this. I will see your Willie Stargell, and I will raise you a Dave Parker any day of the week. Dave
The
Parker,
Cobra.
baby.
Wow.
Hey! I got the Pittsburgh hat with the box with the little rings around it too.
the
Don't
box,
sleep.
yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna break it out this summer. No, baby, don't sleep.
The bicentennial 1976.
Yeah.
The pillbox
Yes.
hat.
Yeah.
All the
Yes.
teams wore it.
I got
It was
one of
great.
those. I got one of those, and it's sweet too. It's pristine.
Kent DeColvey. Remember Kent DeColvey, Chuck?
That's
Oh
right.
yeah.
Stand sideways, you can't see him. He was so skinny.
Hey,
Hey, Groats, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the rest of the weekend, although we'll edit this to make you look really smart.
He is smart. That's
I
one of the
need
smartest
editing
man
in my
the
life.
business.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Brody, our
By the
guest.
way, you know who was my favorite player on that team was Doc Ellis.
Doc,
Oh, Doc Ellis.
Doc Ellis, man, he was out
supposedly
there.
threw a no-hitter when he was under
On
the
LSD.
influence of hallucinogens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was he thinking? Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness.
Mhm.
Hey, before we move on to
Yes.
basketball, we're going to take a break in just a minute, but we did mention Mongo McMichael in passing.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want to send out, our condolences to his family. What a courageous fight. This ALS is just the most
Brutal.
horrible disease as you see your body
Yes.
just taken away from you. And his strength in that was amazing. I remember I came to Chicago in 1990 as a young reporter working at Channel 7, and I was sent into that locker room. That was post the Super Bowl era, but there still were a lot of those 85 Bears on there. Mongo McMichael was one of the scariest guys to walk in the locker room.
Yes, he was.
He basically would stare down reporters, and if you went to talk to him, if you didn't have your questions framed correctly, you were going to get shouted out of there.
That's
in a hurry.
correct.
And he was a huge
I was
presence.
in that locker room for many, many years with him.
Him and Olin Kreutz are probably two of the hardest guys I ever had to interview. And they're both very intelligent, and if you asked the right question, you'd get a fantastic answer. But if you weren't ready, if you came with some weak stuff, you would get sent away very quickly.
Yeah, he's had a booming personality too. I mean, he went into wrestling later on,
Yes, he
and
did.
you could honestly see the transition that's where he was gonna go. And I used to watch him in the wrestling. I'm like, man, this dude is perfectly made
Ric Flair.
for this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just a real nice guy. I met him outside in the mall. I've met him a few times, and really, really nice guy, family guy, and loves sports. Always was talking about the Bulls and how we won our championships, and they always talked about he wanted to get another one for the Bears here. Didn't know when it was going to come, but hopefully sometime before he passed away. And then just witnessing him go through what he had to go through, and his wife and his family. I tell you, man, it was grueling. It was heartbreaking,
Yeah.
heart-wrenching to watch. But he fought to the very end.
He sure did.
Fought to the very end, man.
Yeah, you know what? I've never met his wife, but I have the utmost respect because she never left his
Right.
side ever.
They don't
And
make
it's
him
a
like
great
that anymore.
life lesson for all of us.
They don't make him like that,
Nope.
man. You
wouldn't.
marry somebody, the death do you part, for better or for worse.
And when he
And
was
she was
elected
there.
in the Hall of Fame, which came much too late,
Yes.
Yes.
and just a few months ago, presented with the gold jacket and the bust that will be enshrined forever in Canton. People don't realize he's like second all time behind Richard Dent on the
Exactly.
sack list
Yep.
as a defensive
His
tackle.
defensive tackle,
Yeah.
which is even more impressive, because you have to fight double teams and
Mm-hmm.
him being able to put pressure on the quarterback. I tell you what, man. I mean, I'm glad that he was able to witness going into the Hall of Fame
Mhm.
before he passed
Yeah.
away. You hate to see that kind of stuff when a guy's deserving. Put him in there when he's supposed to be in there. Don't wait till a guy passes
What
away.
happened to Ron Santo with the Cubs?
Yeah,
after he passed.
it makes no sense. I mean, it's like a guy's what he's done, his accolades that he's done. If a guy's deserving to be in the the Hall of Fame, put him in the Hall of Fame. All these voting and people voting, and that's a popularity contest like in baseball. Either you like a guy or you don't. If I don't like a guy, I'm not voting for him. And it's really sad, but I'm glad he got a chance to see that, and his teammates celebrated with him. It was really cool to see.
Well, we're going to talk a lot of hoops. We've got Chuck here. We're going to talk about the Bulls, the NBA playoffs, the offseason, and a whole lot more. So keep it right here. Give me the hot sauce. Rolls on. Hot sauce. We are back on Give Me the Hot Sauce. Chuck Swirsky, kind enough to make the trip out to Palatine, to Tim's lovely Telluride business to join us.
It's just the studio, Mark. Just a studio.
Stu Studio. Where's Phil
Yeah,
Collins when you need him, right?
He'll be a guest in the near future.
Yeah,
we got him booked.
we're working on a deal.
Before he checks out, we got him coming in.
Yeah, we got him. Hey.
Studio.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Something's in the air tonight.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
something's in the
thinking.
air. Yes, something's in the air, Mark.
Hey, we want to thank one of our great sponsors who's with us every week when it comes to
went
being
there.
treated like royalty.
He is coming in.
Make sure to contact the best in the business, our friend Jeff Vukovich. He can take care of all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business. You can reach Jeff at jeffvuk.com. It's Jeff, VUK.com. Phone number 847-825-4783. It is the off season for the Bulls, but the Golden Pipes are always in season.
We're still recovering, Mark, but we're almost where we need to be. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Nationwide is on your side.
Nicely done.
They're coming back, baby. They're a little rusty, but they're coming back.
Do you have Jeff as a sponsor on radio as well?
I believe so.
Yeah. Do you sing the jingle ever? Chuck?
No, we do not.
Only in the shower?
Yeah, we got No.
Or in your car, you're driving. Nationwide is on your side.
Catchy
We
tune.
need to talk to Jeff about that. Get him on Bulls Radio.
There you go. That sounds great. Hey, speaking of Bulls Radio, obviously the season coming to a close, and we had the end of season press briefings by our tourists and a lot of the players. What did you make of that? And, a lot of Bulls fans are curious as to what can be done to improve this team.
Yeah, well, I'm curious too.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm anxious to see as they move forward. Obviously, first thing is we're going to find out where they're going to select
Mhm.
in the lottery, and then they'll go from there. I mean, I'm hoping for a Derrick Rose lottery. Where
Stacey was
That's
saying
what I
earlier.
said, too.
if they don't get the first, I'd love to get in the top 5.
Sure.
There's some really, really good players. There are good players other than Cooper Flagg. Flagg is obviously the number 1 pick. But, I mean, whether it's Ron Harper's son, whether it's Ace Bailey, whether it's the kid from Baylor who I really like.
BJ Edgecombe. yeah.
Edgecombe, yep. So there are the 2 kids from Duke. I mean, there are some really good players. So we'll see how that shakes out. But based on all of what the players said, I mean, the players think they're very, very close to getting a playoff spot. And, right now in the East, once you really get past Boston and Cleveland, and I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on New York. I think New York is really good. I don't know if they're an NBA Finals good.
They're struggling with Detroit right now.
Yes. And I mean, Detroit, I love how they've built their club over the last few years. Now, they've been at the basement, and they've made some really good picks in the lottery. They made some questionable picks. Obviously, the Killian Hayes deal did not go well for them, the 7th overall pick. But, I mean, Cade Cunningham is the real deal.
Oh, he's
And I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
I love Duran. I think Duran, I don't care. People are saying, well, the big man is no longer a featured player. I want to challenge you because if you look what Cleveland's done with the 2 bigs, I think a lot of teams are going to try and copy that.
Especially if they win. If they get to the finals and they beat Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals and they end up getting to the finals, and let's say they win with those 2 bigs, you're going to start to see a shift because you're starting to see it now because people were gearing up for Jokic. They were like, okay, how do we stop this guy? We got to get some size on this guy. So you started to see the kind of the shift of getting bigger. You look at LA with Zubats is playing, having a phenomenal season as a big. I mean, there's teams that are really loading up. And I think eventually you're going to start seeing them go back to that because in the playoffs, it's a totally different game. It's a totally different game than an 82-game season. It becomes more of a half-court game, and you have to have someone in that post that can take some pressure off perimeter players, that can score when the ball's thrown in there, force double teams, kick it back out, because that's a big part of offense.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't understand about today's game, Stacey, is you're looking at a 6'11", 7-foot player 25 feet away, and what you've done then is eliminate that player near the rim. So he can't get offensive rebounds. He can't do some things where you run off a player in a pick and roll and he darts out to the corner as a 5 or the elbow. And I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, you're 7'1". Get your caboose near the
Yes.
basket.
Yeah, and it's been very frustrating because we see that with Vooch a lot. He gets a lot of times he's just kind of floating around the perimeter. And I listen, the 3, 4, and 5 man on the offensive glass all the time. That's how it should be. Your 3, 4, your small forward, power forward, and center. Those 3 guys have to be going for the offensive rebounds, give your team a chance for second chance opportunities. Because the big thing coaches are worried about in this new era of basketball is we've got to get back and stop the 3-point shot. Okay. So therefore you don't send anybody to the glass, and then you all 5 guys get back and you still give up a 3. So what did you accomplish by doing that?
Yeah.
You didn't accomplish absolutely nothing. So if you have guys 3, 4, and 5, or at least 2 of those 3 going to the glass, that means you're keeping 2 offensive players there to box out. And those guys are not running in transition, getting open for 3-point shots, because they have to stay back and block out someone. And if you don't box out, then that's more offensive rebounds for the other team.
I know you guys want to talk about the Bulls, but one quick point what Stacey said. So late in the year, the Bulls played Portland and Utah. They had Walker Kessler against the Bulls taking a ton of threes. And I'm looking at this during the game and I'm thinking, wait a minute, you got the guy who's right now in the top 3 or 4 in the league in block shots. You've got top 3 or 4 hitting the offensive glass. And now you're putting him on the wing to experiment to see if this will be a carryover to 25-26. Portland came in with Donovan Klingman, and he was taking threes. And he is not like ready for NBA. Get him in the lab, whatever. But for an NBA game where you're playing a team like the Bulls, and even Portland was knocking on the door for a play-in spot late in the year. I just don't understand. It worked for Brook Lopez, but a lot of these players don't have the skill set of Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez never took threes when he was with the Nets until his last season.
He was an all-star playing as a back to
yes. So I just don't understand, like, if you've got a really good player who can rebound the ball, who can rim protect, who can block shots, that's his strength. Feed him the ball in the post.
Well, Chuck, as you know, the analytical guys that sit in the office and make these decisions through franchises and say this is a better way to score, this is a better way to get more offense, more transition, is to have these guys. No, I'm sorry. Like if your big man can't, especially defensively, I've always said defensively where I don't like the big man now in today's game, because if you don't have a big man that can switch out and stay in front of a guard for more than 2 slides in the NBA, you've got to stay 3, 4, 5 slides if you want your defense to be effective. You watch a guy like Bam Adebayo, he can stay with a point guard for 6, 7 slides and then still get back and run and block a shot. You got to have bigs that can move their feet. I always use Bill Carr as an example. We used to blitz the pick and roll. So America, blitz the pick and roll means you're trapping the point guard with your bigs, your big and your point guard. Mm-hmm. And to do that, you have to have a big that can move his feet, not let Isaiah Thomas go around him and beat the trap and get to the basket, or Mark Price or whoever. You've got to have a big that can slide 3, 4, 5 slides. If Bill Cartwright, go back and look at films. Film don't lie. Go back and watch Bill Cartwright blitz a pick and roll and stay in front of some of these really quick guards. Now, I know, listen to J.J. Redick, they were plumbers, they were pizza delivery guys, okay? But there were some Hall of Famers that played point guard that Bill Cartwright had to move his feet. Bill Winnington had to move his feet. Will Purdue, guys who are centers, who are big guys, could really trap pick and rolls. That's what made the Bulls defense so effective, because their bigs were athletic. They can move. Even you look at Luke Longley. Luke Longley was not the fastest guy, but he could slide 3 or 4 slides, and that's something that is taught. That's not something you just go out there and go do. That's something you have to spend practice time on. You got to really enforce that, and you got to have your bigs understand. In order for us to win defensively, we need you to do this on possessions when we're blitzing the pick and roll. If we're switching pick and rolls, in order for this to work, you're going to have to move your feet, and you're going to have to keep that guard in front of you and not let him beat you off the dribble, because you hear all these coaches say, well, the reason why we switch pick and roll because you got to defend the 3-point shot. We got to defend the 3-point shot. Okay, that's fine and dandy, okay? But the reality of it is you have a mismatch on a switch between a 1 and a 5, point guard and center. That's a mismatch right out the box right there, because you're asking a 5-man, unless it's a really agile 5 like Bam, you're asking a guy like Vooch to guard, Cade Cunningham. Let's use him as an example. He's not the fastest guy, but he can get to the rim. But you're asking him to stay in front of him. So now when Cade beats Vooch off the dribble, he's now in the paint. So what does that do? It's a domino effect. Now someone has to come help. So when that person leaves a shooter in the corner, that has to come help. Unless your big man can run from trap to the corner, that's going to be a wide open 3-point shot every single time. So it defeats the purpose. That's why I say I hate the switching unless you have bigs that can move their feet.
And that's why Cleveland, if you
Yes.
look at the stats with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year, opponents shot only 44% against him when he was the primary defender. 44%. That's really good. We're talking about a 7-1 man guarding 6'4" point guards, 6'5" point guards, whatever. They move their feet. They're fundamentally sound. And that's why I think there's going to be a premium for really good bigs. And I mean, the Bulls are in a position where they've got to get some bigs. I mean, I don't know the status of Vooch, whether he's coming back or not. Even if he comes back, they got to start looking at that position. And, you know, just let me say one other thing about the defensive player, Dyson Daniels. I mean, you're going to look back at that trade with the Pelicans and Hawks because they got 2 number ones and Dyson Daniels in that deal for DeJounte Murray,
Yep.
who's a good player.
Yeah.
But Dyson Daniels has arrived. This kid is an elite player. He's 22 years old. He is an elite player. Draymond Green campaigned for that job.
I know.
As soon as Victor Wembanyama went out with the blood clots, I mean, whether it was on his podcast, whether it was on every interview, he openly campaigned for him to be the defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
And he finished third.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing about Dyson Daniels. You know, a guy's getting multiple 8, 7 steals in a game. Like, those are not like lazy. He's not going through, you know, getting steals in the pass line. He's taking the ball from people.
Yep.
I've seen him take the ball from our guards.
Sure.
Head up, one-on-one. Give me that ball. I'm taking it to the other end. So he's doing things that are unconventional. And a young player like this is why you have to be careful when your teams. You draft these kids, you bring them on your roster. You don't give them the time to develop. They're not getting the minutes. They're sitting on the bench. They're not getting minutes because you're playing veterans in front of them. So now they're sitting on the bench. And that's why the approach that AK did by going and plucking guys off the bench, you can see that works if you pick the right guys. There are a lot of kids in the NBA that are sitting on benches that are just looking for an opportunity to play, to get an opportunity to play. I look at the kid from Memphis, the G.G. Jackson kid. We played him. He was on a 2-way contract. We were playing him our last game out in Memphis a couple of years ago. And I said, when he had like 30 points and all their guys were injured, I said, boy, if they don't sign him, he's going to be gone. The next day they signed him.
Yeah.
And now they're not even playing him. He's not even getting minutes in the playoffs. And so you got to be very careful when the team to draft these guys. You got to make sure, number one, that this is the guy you want to invest in for the next 5 years, because some of these kids, it takes them 2 or 3 years to develop. You can't just expect them. There's not a lot of LeBron James that can come in this league. Cooper Flagg will be a guy that comes in this league that will be ready from day one. You know, I said this about Modest. If Modest would have been playing earlier in the year, you might have been looking at Modest being rookie of the year. He might have been right up there in the top 3 rookies of the year. He came on the second half of the season. So you got to be very careful when you're giving up on these younger players, man. You just can't give up on them because they go somewhere else and they get an opportunity. They get someone that believes in them, because this game's all about confidence. Ability is, everyone has ability. You have abilities. If you didn't, you wouldn't be in the NBA. It's about confidence. If you got a coach that believes in you and says, hey, look, go out there and play. Don't even worry about coming out. Don't worry about making mistakes. As long as you play hard, that kid's gonna flourish. It's those kids, those coaches that say they pull you out after one mistake. They pull you out. Oh, come out. You turn the ball over. You got to go sit down. That destroys a kid's confidence. I hate that in coaches, and it's just, you see it every night, and you just hate to see it.
You know, the young man, I hope he re-signs with the Bulls. I don't know the cap situation. Trey Jones, another example. Trey Jones comes in. He's out of the rotation in San Antonio. Out of the rotation.
For no reason.
And so now he comes, and because the guards, as you know, I mean, hey, listen, at the end of the year, they didn't have Lonzo, they didn't have Io, and they didn't have Trey Jones. Those are 3 players in the rotation, okay, that the Bulls didn't have against Miami, and really they didn't have, you know, the last, month of the season. Having said that, Trey Jones came in here, played with a lot of confidence, wasn't looking over his shoulder like Stacey said. I mean, they let him play through mistakes. This guy is a fundamentally sound player who plays both sides of the floor, and he gets it. I'm a huge Trey Jones fan. I really didn't know too much about him. He played San Antonio a couple times during the course of the year. I'll watch him on TV, but for the most part, when you see, it's one thing to see a player once or twice. It's another to see a player day after day after day.
Yeah.
My son coached G.G. Jackson in the G League. He was up and down this year. Loves the kid. Loves the kid. He's on the cusp. They had a veteran club in Memphis. He couldn't crack the lineup. That's another guy.
Yep.
If he gets that opportunity, he's going to play. He's athletically off the charts. He's 21 years young. 21. He's been in the NBA 3 years. He came in the league as a young 18. So again, his upside, but all these kids, if you've got skill and you've got a good basketball IQ and you take coaching, I mean, you can go a long way in this league. Because I'll tell you what, Stacey was College Player of the Year at Oklahoma. He comes in, and had he gone to a bad club, he probably would have been playing Stacey 33, 35 minutes a
Might
game.
have been an all-star, baby.
That's right.
The best defense I saw was Phil Jackson. I love Phil. That's the best. He put the handcuffs on me, baby. But seriously though, and I tell people this all the time. It's like, you always the what if game. What if you went to the Clippers? What if you would have went to, Dallas Mavericks, who were struggling at that time, or Indiana, who wasn't really the Indiana that we saw later on, and you go, I like winning. I would have hated being, and I was in Minnesota when I got traded. I hate being on losing teams because it's a loser's mentality. Guys don't want to come to practice. So I got spoiled. I wanted Oklahoma, and then I come to a team that won 50 games before I got here. And so I got a chance to sit behind veterans. I got a chance to see Bill Cartwright work every day. I got a chance to see John Paxson, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Horace. And those, Scottie and Horace were only 4 or 5 years older than us at the time. So they were still young. And then I got to work day to day with a brand new coach who ends up being a Hall of Famer, and then two veteran coaches in Tex Winter and Johnny Bach, who taught me things, who set me down and showed me things. And that's missing in today's game. The coaching staffs, and I say there's a lot of lazy coaches nowadays because, you don't see the coaches doing the hands-on work with these guys. Everything's computer digitalized. They sit here and they watch film on the bench. You watch guys work out, shoot before games. And I watch every team. Like, I like to watch to see who comes out and takes shoot around, seriously. Yeah. And you'll see guys just half motion, just say, you watch a Steph Curry. Steph Curry comes out and goes a full workout.
With a purpose, yeah.
Okay, you watch Kevin Durant. You watch the superstar players. They don't come around messing around. They take game shots. They take the shots they're going to take in the game, and they go full speed. So when they're in the game, they're ready to go. Some of these younger kids, you watch some of these younger kids, they're out there taking shots. Like I see a 7-footer out there taking 3-pointer shots. Okay, come on, man. You're not going to take those shots in the game. You need to be working the back to the basket and working on things that you're going to do in the game because you're not a 3-point shooter. If you want to work on your 3-point shooter, do it out during practice time and in the summertime. I need your big butt on the block. I want to feed you. I want to get you the ball 10, 12 times a night, and I want you to go to work. Because I've said this about Vooch. Vooch, in my opinion, is probably the third best back to the basket center behind Jokic and Embiid. Like, Vooch can give it to you on the block. Vooch can get you 24, 25 points easily just in the post because no one can guard him. He makes it so much easier for teams to defend the Bulls when he takes more outside shots than inside shots. And I thought in Miami, because Miami went against the Bulls, they were trying to get points in the paint. It was very obvious, the back cutting, they were getting layups. So they attacked the Bulls with points in the paint. And the Bulls kind of stayed on the perimeter a little bit, and they couldn't get to the paint. So, they were relying a lot on jump shooting. And I just felt like that would have been a time for Vooch in that situation. You go to Vooch, you say, Vooch, tonight I want you to manhandle Bam out about it. He can't block your shot. He can't do anything with you. We're going to play through you, force double teams, and get us some open shots.
Yeah, because when the Bulls played Miami late in the season, like with a week to go in the regular season, Vooch destroyed Khalil Ware. I mean, he had Khalil Ware. I mean, the ball was going inside like 4 of the first 6 possessions, half court for the Bulls. Throw it to Vooch, the little baby hook, or with the foot, where he would do the inside pivot, then he'd come out and then do the baby hook with the right hand, the push shot with the right hand. Khalil Ware was on skates. And then, but Spo put Bam Adebayo then on Vooch. I think Bam Adebayo is one of the more underrated. I know he's an all-star, Olympic gold. I love Bam Adebayo.
I'll take him in a second.
I think he is a fundamentally sound player. He is a team player. And if you saw his body language, he doesn't talk to anybody. Like when there's a hard foul, he commits the hard foul. He goes to the line to set up in his defensive role on the box. I mean, I thought Bam Adebayo was a huge factor in the Bulls' loss.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Now, you guys talking about the fact that, the Bulls lost to Miami. That's 3 years in a row. They've lost to the Heat in the play-in round, which is very frustrating to fans. We got the best fans in the world. They fill the United Center every night. Chuck, you think that the Bulls may have miscalculated in not taking a step back this year to try to improve their draft position? Because fans are always telling Stacey and I, we're so sick of being stuck in the middle. How do we get out of the middle?
Yep.
You think that from an organizational standpoint, they may have to take a step back to try to get back to that contending status everyone wants them to be?
Well, I don't. You know what, Mark? You tell me, Stacey. You tell me. What does that mean when someone says take a step back? I mean, you can't tell players to
Right.
tank.
Right.
Okay, players don't want to tank. Players don't care about some guard playing at Oklahoma or Alabama or Florida State.
Sure.
You know what they care about? They care about, well, I do believe a player cares deeply about winning. I think they're concerned about how they're viewed and the integrity of when they go on the floor. Because eyeballs are watching, not only from their organization, 29 others, but so the players want to win. And deep down inside, I think organizations want to win. Unless you go in like a Washington or a Utah and you tell your fan base for the next 3 or 5 years, this is going to hurt. But if we do it right and we're held accountable to do it right, then this is the path we're going to take.
Look what Toronto is doing. They pulled all their
Oh,
starters in the
I'll
fourth
I'll
quarter.
tell you what, look at the kids now with the Raptors. I love their roster.
They have a good roster, but they intentionally tanked
Yep.
this year,
Yep.
knowing that they improve their odds to get Cooper Flag or one of those top four
and they're
guys.
going to get
And
up.
this will be a team next year that will jump from whatever their record is now. They'll win 50 games next year because they have enough young talent there. And you got to remember, Brandon Ingram didn't even play for them.
Right.
Correct.
And when he comes in, you add him next to Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick,
RJ
and
Barrett.
RJ Barrett.
Yep.
They got a nice nucleus of players to really, and they say
That's
they
why
get
Bulls
and-
fans are frustrated because they think, why didn't
here's
we do
another
that?
thing. And Stacey knows who's the center on the Raptors? Jakob Poeltl. They don't want Jakob Poeltl to shoot threes. You
No.
know what? He's a rim protector. He's physical. He's
a
tough.
dive and cut
He-
guy.
he-
Set a
yes.
screen and dive to the
You
rim
know
and
what?
dunk the ball.
And that's cool because you know what? The Raptors have thrown shooters around him. So he doesn't need to come out and take 19 footers or 20. He's taken like 3 to 5 threes this year. He made his first 3 in the last week of the season against Miami. I mean, he doesn't.
They threw a party for him in Toronto.
Yeah. But so I do agree with Stacey. I think the Raptors, with that young core of bench players, this kid Shed, he's going to be a
Yes.
really, really good player. Very good player.
What if San Antonio gets Cooper Flag? They're in the lottery to go with Wemby.
I'll tell you what, if San Antonio gets it, the West is going to have the Spurs and Oklahoma City battle it out for the next decade.
Well, and here's what I'm a conspiracy theorist. They need to go back. They got to get a balance of the two leagues because right now it's top heavy. It's really heavy leaning towards the Western Conference, and you've got to get some kind of balance here. You got to. I don't know how you're gonna do it, Adam Silver. Make the card cold or whatever you need to do to make sure that some of these teams are getting legit talent now because all these other teams with free agency guys are leaving, whatever, yada yada. These teams like Chicago, in my opinion, listen, you got to get Chicago back in the mix because the city, the fan support, it's awesome. You've got to get them back. When Boston, New York, and Chicago are playing well, the basketball gods are smiling. You got to get them back there. You throw in Miami, you can throw in Philadelphia, all the big cities. I'm telling you, basketball is at its elite best when all those teams are very good.
We got to get Chuck's opinion on your idea about having the lottery teams play off in a tournament to get the number one pick. That way you can avoid some of this tanking.
I'll tell you what I would do. I would just have one ping pong ball. Just one. And if you win the lottery, you can't win it next year. That's because now with the odds, well, we've got X number of ping pong balls and we have this. No, you know what? You take one, you put it in, good luck to you. And if you get the number one pick, you're not getting it next year.
That's just
and
mean,
then the teams
Chuck.
pick in the order of
just
their record
mean.
after that.
Yes.
That's just mean.
Don't tell Whitey Bulger that.
That's just mean. Hey, you don't get the number one pick next year, man.
Well, look what happened to the White Sox. They weren't allowed to get the first pick.
Correct.
They were
because baseball has it that way. But I despise tanking. Do I understand it? I get
was
what
brutal this year.
But
It was
but
so
it
obvious.
It was so obvious.
It was really
and,
bad. To
And
see.
you know what? I feel sorry for fans the last 3 weeks of this season because, as Stacey said, it's right there in front of us what's going on. Guys, Portland, for example, Denny Avdia was having a great
Yes.
game. It's a 5-point game with 3 minutes to go, and they put him on the bench.
Right. They owe a Bulls of draft pick too.
Yeah. But I don't know if we're ever going to see that,
Yeah.
but you never know.
Well, and again, I mean, Utah's, Larry Markkinen plays the first and the third quarter, and they sit him out the rest of the game. You talk about Walker Kessler shooting threes. What better way to tank is have him shoot threes? The guy's a 10% 3-point shooter. Go ahead and shoot him, Walker.
Yeah,
Go ahead, go out there and impersonate Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Clank, clank, clank. Keep shooting him. Keep shooting. Bang, bang. Keep shooting him, Walker. You're doing a great job, son. We're getting higher odds to get Cooper flag. I mean, seriously, it was so obvious this year. And then Toronto could be leading going into the fourth quarter with their main guys.
Charlotte was tanking.
Sit them at
Toronto
the,
early in the
fourth
season.
quarter.
They pulled
Wow.
them. And then they came back. They almost won the game.
They almost won the game.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
so
something's got to be done.
Something's got to
because
be done.
You're cheating the fans.
Forget
the other thing
the
you could do
in-season
is,
tournament.
is just hold either that or take the amount of wins after the All-Star break from these lottery teams, and whoever has the most wins gets the first pick instead of the fewest. That
That's
way
a
you're
good
playing
point.
for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mark.
Emmanuel quickly comes up on Kobe White. Also gets a 3. Oh my gosh, we're going into overtime.
Yeah, some of it was like head scratching. Like it was
Yeah.
just like
Ugly.
I mean, then you see teams like Portland who are actually scrapping and trying to get their younger
Yeah.
guys to get into the playoff, and they got some injuries at the end. They set their veteran guys, Jeremy Grant, all these guys were missing. I mean, I've seen more guys miss this year from fingernail injuries and my butt sore. I don't know.
But it's
I mean,
like-
no Diddy, no Diddy, no
Listen,
Diddy,
wow.
no Diddy, baby, no
you
Diddy.
wonder how, I mean, like, listen, I do in my heart, these players are competing. Quickly tried to block Kobe White's shot, and he happened to foul him. And they changed, and then Scotty Barnes did this ridiculous turnaround baseline left jumper, and the ball hit the side of the backboard, and things like that happen. I get it. But when you're not on the floor and your starters are pulled,
You can
Then
see it,
you-
yeah. It's
And
crazy.
see, and everybody was, upset with the Bulls. The Bulls are not doing this. Okay. First of all, that's not how this organization works. Okay.
Right.
You should you heard them talk about this in the beginning of the season, and when the rails started to fall off a little bit before the trade deadline. They went in with a game plan. They're not tanking, and the players were not tanking. Billy Donovan's not going to tank. Billy Donovan is a Hall of Fame coach, and that's based off of college and all the things he's done in basketball. But he's still a guy that has pride. He's still a guy that wants to win at the end of the day because his legacy's on the line. So you're not just going to be tanking. Everybody, the whole organization was in on this. We're not tanking, and we're going to play hard. If we make the play-in, great. We make the playoffs, great. If we don't make the playoffs, that's fine. But they were all in to play and play hard because you have to establish a culture. You don't want these guys to get used to losing, okay? You don't want these guys to get used to being in a play-in game either.
Right.
So next year's motto, coming into whoever we draft and whatever we do, and who we have come back, who we sign, who we kept, whatever, the mindset should be, we are no longer going to be in the play-in game. We need to be 6 or higher. That's our goal. We have a team that can do that. We have the players that can do that. And again, as Chuck said, I'm a believer that we need to get bigger. We had too many guards when we were all healthy. We had too many guards, and then at the end of the year, everybody got hurt, and we needed all those guards. But what are the chances of that happening? That happened again when you have 8 or 9
Yeah,
guards
you had 8 guards and 3 centers.
and
on
3
a
centers.
15-man
We
roster.
were small and we played small. And I know like we got away with Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso playing power forward
Who's
for
been
us.
amazing
Who's
in the
been-
playoffs.
yeah. But we got away with allowing him to play power forward.
Mhm.
And I think Billy kind of believed that anybody can do that. No, not everybody's Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso plays bigger than he actually is, and he's one of the best defensive on-ball players in the game. You can see it now in Oklahoma City, okay? So not everybody's Alex. So you can't trot, Trey Jones out there and say, guard Giannis. You can't do that. You've got to have some size. You can't give up offensive rebounds where we did on some nights because we were smaller. I know they want to play quicker. I know they want to play faster. You can still play that way. And that's why it all depends on guys like Patrick Williams and Modest's development, how fast, this is year 6 for Patrick. So, and we talked about that. He's got to get it next year. Next year, I mean, you should be an established player by year 6. and they're going to need him to play. He's got to be healthy. He's got to come out with a different mindset, be aggressive. He's got to have the same mindset that Modest has. It's come out there and just play, or Julian Phillips, where those kids just go out there and play, and they play hard. They play with a high motor. He's a key how this draft's going to work, because if you let's say we win the number 1 pick or the top 3, okay, you're not going to, if we bring back Giddey, do you really go get Dylan Harper when you already got Josh Giddey? Okay, so you're going to go totally different if you're in the top. We don't get number 1, we get 2, 3, or 4. You're not going to take Dylan Harper if you got Josh Giddey and you got Lonzo Ball. You're just not going to do that. They might. I'm just an armchair quarterback, okay? But you're going to go for some size. You're going to probably go for a shot blocker.
Bailey 6'10".
Yeah, Bailey 6'10", or you go for the kid in Duke, the center, the African, Malawach, that Lou Aldang has been working with. You go with him. So it all depends on needs after number 1. If you don't get number 1, Cooper Flagg is the prime jewel. Okay, it's a no-brainer when you draft him. But after that, it becomes, where do we get the best available player, or do we settle, like, we got a point guard in Giddey, we just paid him a lot of money. Now do you go get a Dylan Harper and then try to convert him to a 2? I don't know about that when you got Kobe, because everything's going to depend on where they feel. Is Kobe and Josh, the small sample size that we saw, it seemed like it worked in the second half. Numbers don't lie. Is it something that's sustainable?
Right.
For an 82-game season.
I think you got to get the best player available. And I'm not a believer in picking for a position. If you've got a solid number 2, number 5, number 7 pick, and he is the best player among that what's remaining, you got to get the player. And you worry about the rest later. You collect assets. And one other point, what Stacey was mentioning about size, I don't have stats in front of me. How many times did opponents throw the ball on a lob to the rim and a big dunk just came out of nowhere? I mean, they were throwing lobs to the rim. I can name you right now a half dozen centers in the league that did backdoor cuts, caught the ball, dunked it.
Because you're switching. And when you got a guard at 6'2", 6'3", on a 6'10", 6'11", 7-footer, it's easy to throw the ball to the rim and go get the ball. And that's why I say that's so the switching defense has really, when we listen, I hate to be that guy on the yard, like get off my yard and everything, like, the old and cranky old man, get out of my yard. I don't want to be that guy. Okay. But when we played defense, switching, there was 2 things you switched on. Switch same size guys. Okay, so if me and Horace Grant came together, we could switch because we're the same size guys. Michael and Scotty could switch. They're same size guys. Switching was looked upon as being weak, you're weak defensively. You're hiding someone. You're hiding a bad defender to try to help them out by switching, okay? We never did that kind of stuff. Phil and Johnny Bach frowned on the switching part.
Guys are dying on screens all the time. Nobody fights.
Nobody fight. Well, let me tell you something. You look at a guy. You look at the kid from Miami, the little guard, the from Baylor, the shooter. Davion Mitchell. You watch him come over screen. Yeah. You watch him come over screen.
He was the X factor against us.
Shed. You watch some of these guys who are defensive minded go through screens. It's a mentality.
Sure,
it's a toughness that you have to have. Are you going to get popped? You sure are, okay? But I've seen some of these big men set screens. I wouldn't fear any of these big guys. You get a screen by Brad Doherty. Get screened by Patrick Ewing. Get screened by James Donaldson. You get screened by some of these big dudes like John Concack. These guys who actually lay their body on you and pop you. Bill Lane Beer, guys who are looking to take your head off. These bigs in this game are not as physical. They're looking to slip the screen. They're looking to pop up for a 3-point shot. They're not really looking to pop you and hit you in the body. Jokic is one guy who hits you. Embiid will hit you. Zubac will hit you. But that's like 3 out of 30 guys in the team.
Will hit you.
Who's that?
Pirtle.
Yeah, Pirtle will hit you because he's trying to score.
Yeah.
And that's why you set a screen. You set a screen to form an advantage. You set a screen to get your big, an easy layup or a switch to the guard. So the guys who want to score, they're going to set a screen. The guys who I don't like that contact either. So you got a point guard who may not like that contact. You got a big who don't like to set the contact. So then the screen is not as hard or not as solid as it is. But you watch some of these guards, some of the good defensive guards, it's a mindset. It's a toughness. Get over the damn screen. Fight over the screen. It ain't going to hurt. Just like charges. The Bulls used to be one of the best teams at taking charges. This year, I think we were less than 15 that we've taken. The year before, with Alex Caruso, we were right up there in the top 10 in charges, you know, and you know, it was funny because we were on a nightly broadcast, we go, oh, there's number 8 for the year. And we already played 70 games.
Well, you know who also took charges because he had that 1 year where he played a lot was Ryan Arcidiacono.
Yes.
He took a lot of charges.
Yep.
But getting back to Stacey, you know, Davion Mitchell was the X factor for Miami in our game with them. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
And what happened in the other play-in game with Atlanta and Miami, where Trae Young took that set off, and Mitchell tried a 3, missed it, and he flew in to grab that rebound. And you know, you got Trae Young looking around like, huh? And then he passed it, and the guy hit a corner 3. I mean, like, you know, you need toughness, you need physicality, and I know.
Dogs.
I mean, like, I love players who not only play both sides of the floor, but when you go into that arena and you know you're playing that guy, you don't want to play that guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, like when you played Caruso and he was on you, you don't think right now when Oklahoma City's playing Memphis and that guy is on offense playing against Caruso, you don't think he's thinking like he's going to get a deflection or he's going to bang me out of the way with a forearm or he's going to, I mean, that's what it is. That's what you're going to get.
Yeah, one of the big storylines, as I mentioned, again, we're recording on a Friday, and last night, John Morant took a horrible fall. Memphis was up by 29, and Alex Caruso led the comeback, so they're up 3-0. So all the series have played 3 games so far, and injuries are a big factor. Morant,
Tatum.
Jimmy Butler took that horrible fall. We don't know what his status is going to be, and Tatum's got a wrist injury. So I was curious, Chuck, what stood out to you most about these early games in round 1?
Well, I mean, number one, I mean, you look at the possibility of a sweep. I mean, Detroit and New York obviously are going to have a game 5, but I mean, you see what Indiana's doing right now. I mean, this is almost a carbon copy of what happened last year.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Indiana, just the light bulb went on and boom. And you know what's surprising? The Athletic did a poll, and the players. I don't know how many players were involved in the poll, but they said that Halliburton was the most overrated player in the league. Now, like, I watch his game, and I'm saying to myself, he is who he is. He takes threes. He has a ton of assists. You know, I mean, I don't know where's that?
It's more because he talks. He talks too much.
Oh.
It has nothing to do with his play. I think he's well respected as a point guard and what he means to his team and where he's looked at as a player in the game. He's one of those guys when they're losing, and you hear a lot of players say this. When they're losing, he never is talking. But as soon as they get a lead, he's chapping.
Oh.
He's yapping. You know, if you go, like I said, it's easy to talk when you're up 10 or 15 points. You know, keep that same energy when the game is tied, when it's 0-0. See if you have Michael Jordan had an interesting quote about that. You know, guys like to talk when they're winning, you know, and they got a lead. But let's see you talk that same talk when it's 0-0. And now the game's on the line. And, you know, that's
when I was with the Raptors, we had a player, Derek Martin.
Yep.
And Derek Martin was playing for the Vancouver Grizzlies. And he was going off, and he was like having an unbelievable first half. And the Grizzlies were leading the Bulls double digits. And all of a sudden, Jordan, like, you know, he got tired. He said, enough's enough. And then you can look on YouTube. It's unbelievable.
But he was talking trash.
Yes, he was.
Derek Martin was talking trash.
Yeah,
I played with Derek in Minnesota, and he's with UCLA guard. He was always talking trash, chirping. He was even doing it in Minnesota. I'm like, dude, we suck. Be quiet. Shut up. Just be quiet, man. And we're already down 20, and you're still talking. Now we're going to be down 30. Let's just be quiet, man. You know, we don't have the firepower to go against these guys. You just said talking trash. But he was talking trash to MJ. And that's one thing you don't ever do. Like, I've seen MJ destroy people, man. And destroy careers.
Snatch their
like,
souls.
I'm telling you, dude. Like, I mean,
Bradford Smith is the most.
LeBradford. I'm gonna tell you something, man. LeBradford Smith. That was one of the worst. Like, I felt so sorry for that kid because that kid didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
He just played basketball. He had a great game going up against his idol. You know, everybody was comparing this kid at Louisville, the next Michael Jordan. There's a lot of next Michael Jordan,
Right.
Harold Miner, all these guys. But this is a guy they said, oh, he's going to be the next Michael Jordan. He comes into Chicago, man. He has a hell of a game, dude. He's hitting every single thing he's throwing up. Michael's frustrated, can't guard him. And it wasn't the fact he didn't guard him. The guy was just making shots.
Yeah,
You know, Mike was on him, and he was just making shots. You know, he's getting layups, jumpers. He has like 38, I think, for the game, you know. And games over. That's when we had to play back to back. So we had to fly that night to go play Washington the next day in Washington. So MJ was pissed. Like MJ was he didn't even want to do no interviews. You know, they were asking him, hey, he idolized you. What do you feel about that? No comment. No comment. Don't talk about it. You know, so on the way down there, we're flying, right? We're flying down there. MJ normally playing cards. He's normally hanging out with all the guys. He's in a parlor. You know, that's when we flew on this jet called the MGM Grand Air. It was like flying in a Hotel America. It was first class back there. We had beds in there. It was awesome. So he's back there in the parlor with the blinds closed, and he got Ray-Ban glasses on in the dark. Okay, so he's sitting there in the dark with Ray-Ban glasses. That's when you knew somebody was in trouble. Anybody wearing Ray-Ban glasses at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, you know, and you're sitting in the dark, like you're not Stevie Wonder, bro. You're not Stevie Wonder. So he's in there. He's in the parlor. So we all knew it was business. So we get off the next day. He's at the gym. He's at the we're going to the game. He was there before the bus got there. He was out there warming up. Michael never goes to shoot. Never shoots. That never goes out there and warms up. He sits in. He has a routine that he does. He goes in the locker room. He starts getting all his tickets together, you know, and he gets undressed. He got his North Carolina shorts on. He's sitting there watching the game. He's watching video, breaking things down, reading the scouting report. And then when Phil goes over the scouting report, it's so funny. He goes over the scouting report. MJ goes to the bathroom and takes a dump while Phil is talking. It's the craziest thing. I couldn't believe it.
That's routine.
I was like, what is this dude doing? He'd be like, Michael, can you hear me? I got you, Phil. Flush the toilet. I'm like, oh my God, this dude's in there going to the bathroom while the coach is talking.
Stories you only get.
You only get inside, so give me the hot sauce.
Give me the hot sauce, Phil.
So that this particular day with LeBradford Smith, you knew it was serious. So he's out there. He never shoots, ever shoots. So he's out there shooting, breaking a sweat. He comes in. We come in. We're coming in, dressed in our suits and stuff. He's in there. And we're like looking at this dude like, oh, my God, this kid is in trouble. Like, he's already lathered up, ready to go. So Phil's like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to take this away, blah, blah, blah. And so MJ's just like shaking his head. And then we went out there. And I swear to God, it was like Michael was playing by himself. It was like we didn't even exist. Like, in Michael's eyes, it was just him and LeBradford Smith. They were the only two people on the court. And so by halftime, I mean, he was killing LeBradford, just kill him. Wouldn't let him get his shot off, was getting steals, was beating him up physically. And so at halftime, right before halftime, Phil's going to take Michael out. So we're up big, you know. So he's like, all right, Michael, I'm going to take you out. So Michael's coming out, and then LeBradford is at the scores table. And Michael told him, he said, hey, look, what you got for a full game, I got in the first half. So like 38 points at halftime. And it took 4 quarters for him to get that. And it only took like a quarter and a half for MJ to get that. And then so he goes to the sideline. He said, all right, Mike, Phil goes, all right, Mike, I'm going to put you out the third quarter, but we're only going to play a few minutes. So Mike's like, no, I want to be out there. I want to be out because he wanted to go for like 100. And so Phil's like, I'm leaving you out there for like 3 or 4 minutes. You're coming because we were killing them. Yeah. We were destroying them. So he took him out. Took him out about 5 minutes to go into the third quarter. And MJ had like 40-something points, whatever. And he told LeBradford Smith, he said it took you 4 quarters to get 38. It only took me a quarter and a half. And you could see the life, just like those hourglasses when the sand goes out. That's what LeBradford Smith looked like. And he was never the same.
Yeah, that's true.
You didn't hear nothing else about LeBradford Smith because that was a game that he had on MJ that could have built him and put him into a different level. And when he got destroyed the next night, maybe if we played Washington 2 weeks later, his career would be still different and still be ascending. But to go back to back and then have a guy who you played really well against come back in a half and do what you did in 4 quarters and let you know about it.
Snatched his soul.
Snatched his soul. Like,
That was sold to Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction. I saw that.
But this is why Jordan, to me, and I'm not saying this because I'm in Chicago, he is the greatest player in the history. And I'm old enough. I saw Wilt Chamberlain play at the tail end of his career. I saw Bill Russell play at the tail end of his career. I saw Oscar Robertson. I saw Jerry West.
Chuck, how old are you?
I'm 71.
God, you don't look 71. I thought you was
you
50.
look great.
I'm like, damn, you saw these people, you old mother.
I did as a kid. I mean, and let me tell you what, and with all due respect, great player, great stats player, unbelievable talent. LeBron James isn't even in my top 5.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you what, I think Kobe Bryant was a better player than LeBron James.
I would agree. I would agree with you.
I got to send you my PowerPoint, Chuck.
Listen, I called Kobe's 81-point game. And just like MJ with LeBradford Smith, I saw Kobe's mindset and the percolation of his anger that his team was down by 19 in the third quarter. There was a pass that went from one sideline to another cross-court pass. He intercepted, dunked. And it was a sleepy Sunday night in L.A. Let me tell you what, that ignited the crowd. He scored 81 points. We put everyone on him, whether it was Chris Bosh, Matt Bonner, Jalen Rose, Mo Peterson, Mike James. You can go right down the list.
Gave it to all of them.
He destroyed everyone.
Well, you were great in the documentary, Chuck.
Thank
Your
you.
commentary.
But I'll tell you what,
Kobe
Kobe Bryant
It's
was the closest thing I've seen to Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, yeah. Anybody will tell you, Craig Hodges was the shooting coach for LA. So he was out there with Phil and those guys, and he was the shooting coach. He worked with Kobe all the time. And Kobe would ask Craig, because he knew that he had been with MJ. It's like, hey, what was MJ like? Like, how was his practices, and how did he approach this or approach that? And Craig is, he will tell you, he's not gonna hide anything. He's like, hey, he's a killer. He practices just as hard. Yep. And I'm listen. I don't tell people. When you saw The Last Dance, when he's talking about he's a tyrant, people think I'm a tyrant. You have to be a strong, mentally strong person to play with MJ.
Yep.
You can't be a person that's sensitive. You can't be a person that's going to get bent out of shape if he says something to you the wrong way or approaches you. Because a lot of times it's not the delivery, it's the message. And a lot of times people, even these young kids now to get coached, they're focused more on the delivery, how it's delivered to them, based on how they're going to respond to it. So if a coach is yelling at a young player, they, some players will respond to it like, okay, I'm going to show him. But then there's certain players that'll go into a shell and they'll retreat and they won't play with confidence. So as a coach, you got to know those kind of things, which buttons to push. But when a player like MJ is doing it, like, you got to be strong mentally to deal with that, because he puts a lot of pressure on you. Yeah. I remember my rookie year, we're in Orlando and he got his jersey stolen. And he had to wear number 12. Remember that? Because that's when they used to put the jerseys out and anybody had access to the locker room. And this is before security and all that stuff. So they put his jersey out, someone stole it. So, John Ligmanowski, the great, great guy that we had doing all the equipment manager, he had a number 12 jersey. He didn't have another 23 jersey. So he gave him a number 12 jersey. It was the weirdest thing looking at MJ come out with no name on the back with a number 12. Yeah. He goes out and commences to give like big numbers to Orlando, right? We lose, okay? So me and BJ are rookies. Then we're at the wall. We're like game 35. Like, we've only played like 32 games in college. So we're tired, So he comes in there and he starts, talking and, Phil saying, all right, you guys need to pick it up, our bench, blah, blah, blah. So MJ, I got to say something. And he goes over to me and BJ. Me and BJ are sitting there like two little children. And he looks at us. He's like, you two, you got to pick it up. You got to play harder. You got to come out with more intensity. And I swear to God, it was like my dad was talking to me. I was like, man, I'm looking at BJ. I was like, what this man, he point us out. Yeah. We just babies out here. These other dudes like grown men. Yeah. They need to pick it up too.
But you know what? That was exactly the same with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
I mean,
he learned that from MJ though.
He learned it from MJ. And that's why he's the closest thing I've seen. Yeah. There's only one MJ, but he is the closest in terms of personality, his desire.
He's a killer. He's a killer.
I'm talking about major.
He's not trying to be a friend. He's not trying to be friends. It would be interesting in today's game if he was still alive, what these players, because a lot of these players idolize Kobe.
Yes.
Okay. Would they be doing the same thing? Guys like, not showing up to play, load management, all this stuff. It would be interesting to see how would they play that way with Kobe. Because Kobe Bryant would come out and say something.
Sure he would.
Kobe Bryant would say something. And I guarantee you, like, and LeBron is going to be on the Mount Rushmore of everybody's, top greatest player, except Chuck's, okay? But it'd been interesting to see if Kobe was still alive and still involved with the Lakers, how much power LeBron would actually have. Would he be able to say to Kobe Bryant, we're going to draft my son the second round when Kobe Bryant is trying to win championship?
He'd probably knock off all that GOAT talk.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they draft. Listen, I don't think they draft Bronny James in the second round if Kobe Bryant's alive.
Because remember Rob Pelinka, who was my broadcast partner at Michigan, but Rob and Kobe were joined they were super tight.
I honestly think Kobe would have got tired of the antics, and I think Kobe would have pushed for them to trade him. I get as much as you can for him. You might as well do it right now. Because at the end of the day, this is not going to work out. Because Kobe is all about winning. Kobe was all about winning. He didn't care how you did it, and that's the same thing with MJ. They didn't care how we do it, just do it. Just get out here and win. Go out here and play hard. I remember after we lose to the Pistons, my rookie year, and we should have beat the Pistons. We should have beat them. They were on a little run there. They had won their 2 championships or their 1 championship, getting ready to go for the second one. And we beat them in game 6. And John Paxson, hurts his knee. So he's out game 7. That was the Scottie Pippen migraine game.
Yep.
So we're down 2 players if you count Scottie and the migraine. We're down our 2 best players at their position. So we go in there and we're playing a team that's fully healthy. Pistons are fully healthy. They're at their apex level. And we're battling. Craig Hodges had to go play point guard, who's really not a point guard. He's more of a scoring guard.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough. BJ was a rookie. It was tough putting him out there, trying to put us out there to play in that situation in a game 7 on the road in Detroit.
Sunday afternoon, one of the highest rated games on CBS ever.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yep, I was there too.
So after that game, we ended up losing a tough, hard game. Scottie had the migraine headache. People gave Scottie a bunch of crap. But if you ever had a migraine, you know exactly how it feels. We all know, his teammates know, that he tried to go out there and play. I mean, the kid was in tears. His head hurt so bad. And he got a lot of flack about that in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
But we all knew that he went out there and gave us everything he got. Paxson tried to go, but he couldn't go. So it was like, okay, cool. We go in the locker room at the end of the game, and there's guys crying. It's just, we're heartbroken because we felt like we gave one away, especially with the way we played in game 6. We dominated them so bad in game 6, blew them out. We felt so confident going to game 7 before the injury and before the Scottie migraine that we felt we could win a game 7 and then going into winning that championship in 90, we could have won 4. So they end up going to the finals and playing. They end up winning. But we're in the locker room, and I remember Jerry Krause like it's yesterday. Jerry comes in the locker room, he's like, he's stumbling around, he's kicking, warm-up suits around, and I'm tired of losing to these people. I'm tired of losing to the Pistons. He's like giving this, speech, and everybody's like, no one's listening.
Right.
And I listen. Well, there's a lot of us who love Jerry, like a lot of respect for Jerry.
Yes.
But that wasn't the time for Jerry to
timing
say.
is
Yeah, the timing. Yeah, he didn't read the room.
Yeah.
He didn't read the room at that time. A lot of guys were heartbroken. Guys cared. Guys actually cared. Guys were crying. It was just a sad locker room. And so MJ gets up and, he's like, all right, Jerry, get out of here. We're done. Get up. So Jerry leaves, and it's a players only meeting. So then MJ stands up, man. And this is what you talk about leadership, okay? And when Michael talked, you listened. He didn't talk. Well, he talked a lot, and he all talked trash. But when it was a serious conversation that everybody needed to hear, everybody listened. And he got up there, man. He went down the room, and he pointed at every single player on the room. At that particular point, Mark, we were not unified like a fist. We had cliques. You had 2 guys over here, 3 guys over here, 2 over here. We weren't like a team. We were good enough to win all these games, but we were not a tight unit at that point. And when he gave his little speech, man, it's like win one for the Gipper speech is real. It was like, Gale Sayers and the Brian Piccolo type thing.
Yeah.
He went down to each player and said what he needed for them to do for us to win and for us to beat this team. And I remember him saying, this will be the last time we lose to the Pistons in this playoff series. The last effing time we lose to them. And it was like a freaking lightning bolt went through the room and hit every single body. And he was telling everybody, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. You little rookies, you guys better be in that weight room every single day of the week.
And by the way, he was in the weight room.
Oh, yeah, he was there.
The next day,
Yeah,
on Monday, he was in the weight room.
Everybody, after that game, man, the whole mindset of that team changed. We worked out together. We showed up. We had times where everybody's going to be there at 10 o'clock. We're there at 10 o'clock. We're going to play later on that night at 6. And it was the camaraderie was just so much better than what it was early in the season. Everybody started, understanding, like, in order to win this, I got to depend on the man on my right. I got to depend on the man on my left. And if I choose 2 people away from me, I got to help. He's got to help too. And the whole mindset changed. And that's when we went on our little run. And that was all because that guy, the competitive speed. Because everybody thinks, when they say, oh, Michael's so competitive, that whole team's competitive. You got to have a team full of people that hate to lose. Because all those guys on that team, if you think about all the Bulls rosters on the 6 championship rosters, all those players had high basketball IQ. All those guys have done something in the NBA, whether they're being in the front office, whether they're scouting, whether they're coaching, whether they're broadcasting. We're all doing something in the game, and we all know the game. We all know the game. Scottie could be a great coach. Could be a great coach if he dedicated himself to do that. Scottie, great players sometimes get frustrated when you got players that when you know what you did, and then you see a guy over here cutting corners.
Why can't you do that?
Yeah, but getting paid like $60 million to not work hard. And then you see that's why guys like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and those guys struggle coaching these kids now. They're like, I'm not coaching these kids. I'd rather sit there and watch them on
That's
TV.
why I give Jason Kidd a lot of credit. He's done a good job as a head coach in the NBA. But, I think what you said, Stacey, is right on about everything. I mean, about the mindset of a joy. If you really want to get a feel for Kobe Bryant, talk to DeMar DeRozan about him. Talk to Kyrie Irving about what Kobe Bryant did for them and passing the torch because, Kobe was about to retire, had a few years left. But it was amazing the impact Kobe Bryant. If you ask today's players, they're getting younger, but these kids were kids when LeBron came in the league in 2003. They were just like 8 years old, 9 years old, if that. And the same thing, they saw Kobe Bryant on TV. They saw LeBron on TV. And that's why, the Jordan era ended not with the Wizards. It really ended with the Bulls, in my opinion, in 1998. And so when we watch those highlights on the big board before the tip-off, or when you go on YouTube, I mean, the players of today have no idea how great of a player Michael Jordan was. No concept.
And it's funny, too, because you hear some of these guys, I could have guarded him. You're out your damn mind. He was guarded by some Hall of Famers that were like on the all defensive team, and the hand checking and the physicality of the game. Michael Jordan in his prime, Kobe Bryant in his prime would average 50 in this league easily. And you talk about coming close. Kobe had 81 in a league where you could grab, hold, tackle. Imagine what he'd get in this league. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can get to the free throw line 10, 12 times a game, imagine what Michael and Kobe would do. And then everybody goes, well, they're not three-point shooters. Michael Jordan averaged 35 points a game without taking a lot of threes.
That's right.
Maybe threes were not even a necessity for him. So just imagine, and Michael would have worked on himself to be a three-point shooter.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. Michael would have conformed to the way the game is played now. Michael's not going to play the 90s style basketball in today's game. Michael would have evolved. Michael would have said, okay, I got to work on my three-point shooting. He would have worked on his three. Because if you remember, Michael's first 7 years was attack the rim, dunk on anybody who's underneath the basket. Michael's second part, the last 7 years, was now post-ups, turnaround jump shots, more three-point shooting. So he would have evolved. Kobe was already shooting threes. Kobe was already shooting threes before it was a thing of, a necessity. So you can imagine he would have worked on his game.
Yeah.
So I get tired of hearing this, oh, well, these guys played against plumbers and da-da-da. Oh, man, come on, bro. Stop that. Stop that.
Unbelievable.
Stop it. Show some respect.
Well, it's been fun going down memory lane. We're really great to have Chuck here in studio to join us on the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast.
I love the hat, Stace.
Thank you.
I think
Chuck.
That's a winning hat.
Thank you. I'm a winning person.
So we're gonna send Chuck home with a 4-pack of Stacey's signature sauces.
Good. Yes.
How can folks at home get those?
Well, first, I got to get Chuck's input on
right.
the retirement of Gimme Fredette, a great former Bull and a former MVP of the CBA. You heard he retired, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts about his career?
You know what? I love Gimme at college. Everyone did, obviously.
Yep.
He was with the Bulls in 2014 for 8 games. But during that period of time, I remember I cornered him one day, and we were just talking about his love of the game. And he loved the game. He was a gym rat.
Yep.
Now, did his game transcend from college to pro? No, it did not. And remember, he was a first-round pick, a high first-round pick with Sacramento. I think they made a draft day deal with Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken.
7 or something.
Yes, exactly. And so, but it just didn't materialize, and that's all right. He was. Let's leave it at this. He was a great college player. He played, in and out of Europe and the NBA
Shanghai Sharks.
That's right. And so I think when it's all said and done, I think he was a winning player for what he did best, and that was in college. But he loved the game. And I love players who love the game. Matis Buzelis loves the game. He doesn't like the game. He loves the game. I love this kid. I like his makeup. I like how good he's going to become. He wants to be a great player. And he has told me, as he's told Stacey, he wants to be great. A lot of guys said, well, I'll do the best I can. No. I want to hear a player say, I want to be great. And more importantly, I will do what it takes to be a great player. Stacey King was the college player of the year, put his Oklahoma team on his back because he wanted to be great. If he was good, they don't go to the Final Four. Yeah. Okay? They don't.
That's right.
It's true.
Whispers.
Hey, listen, you know what? At the end of the day, you got to have a personality that, one, I love the game. Because if you don't love the game, if you don't love what you do, why show up? Why show up and give a half-ass effort? You know, I always say Chuck is one of the hardest working guys in broadcasting. He loves his job. He loves and listen, when most guys are off during the summer, like, I don't want to pick up a mic, I don't want to do anything. I do my podcast, and I call that's enough for me. But Chuck will go do games in Canada, summer league games in Canada,
Just radio work at the
radio,
score.
and does radio work. So you got to love what you do. You have to have a passion for it, and that's why I tell younger players all the time: if you don't love what you do, like, I would play in the NBA for free. I know people are gonna know you wouldn't say, yeah, I would. If the NBA said you had to go get a job, I love playing basketball so much, I would have played for free. And when you
did take a pay cut when you came to the league.
yeah, I did. I know. You know, there's a statute of limitation in Oklahoma.
Stacey,
I was one of the
okay,
first
Stacey.
NIL players.
Stacey.
I was one of the first
All right.
NIL players in
I get
Oklahoma,
it.
but they didn't call the NIL back then, baby. They call it boosters, baby.
Stacey, let me ask you a question. All kidding aside, with the NIL was back in the late '80s. How much do you think, being where you were at as a college player, would you have made 3 bills, 4 bills, 5 bills? What?
Oh, Chuck, the numbers keep going up. I would probably say I'd be a $5 million player in college basketball.
I would think
But
so.
I'm just saying that
I
based
agree.
off of how I played in
Yeah.
my team.
And that's not including
Yeah.
a shoe deal.
No, that's not including the shoe deal because we were Converse. Yeah, we were Converse, but I wore Nikes in practice. So, but yeah, my team was on TV a lot. You know, we were on CBS, ESPN. When ESPN first started, it wasn't as big as it was. We were on their big Mondays, their big Tuesdays. I was Dick Vitale's Windex Player of the Week guy like 4 times. You know, so we were highly visible. You know, and we were,
Honolulu.
Yeah, we played in all those big
So
tournaments.
you would have made coin. The St. John's team with Bill, with Mark Jackson, Walter Berry, Chris Mullen,
They would have made money.
they would have made a lot of coin.
Yeah, the Patrick Ewing in Georgetown. I mean,
Yep.
a lot of these teams that had superstar, iconic college players would have made a lot of money back then. You know, it's unfortunate because we used to talk about it, you know, forming a union back in like 1984, 85. The players, we should have a union. We should get paid. Because there was nights, man, like we're at the national championship game. My roommate was Tony Martin. We had on my show. And he's now, you know, he's a CHIP police officer in California.
Really?
But we would be in the room. We're at the national championship game. We're Sunday night. We're sitting in our bedroom. You know, we got 2 beds and everything. And he's like, man, I'm starving. We're starving, hungry. No, we got no money, nothing. We're just starving, and we got a game tomorrow. And so I remember calling my parents up. It was like about 11:30. My parents were at the game, and they're staying in the same hotel. And I called my mom. I said, Mom, I said, hey, can you run by McDonald's and grab us something to eat? Like, we're starving, you know? And just being college kids and thinking about, you know, we couldn't work during the school year. You can only work in the summer.
Yeah.
So you had no money. Most of us come from parents who couldn't afford to send you to college. So you weren't getting any extra money from your parents. So there was times, man, there was times you didn't really eat because like the cafeteria, what people don't understand is like the athletic cafeteria closes on the weekends. Okay. Is the last time it's open is like 11 o'clock on a football day. So on a football game, you know, football game starts at 1 o'clock. They close it at like 12. So you're done for the rest of the weekend. You can't eat again in the athletic cafeteria until Monday. So you got to go the whole weekend with no food. And so the regular students can eat 7 days a week, but we couldn't go eat in their place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we were starving. We needed. There was time we needed money, and my thing was to find a nice girl with a nice car that had some money. I had a few of them. I had a few of them guys. I had one for each
few
week,
cars
baby.
or a few
I had a
women.
Hey, but hey, I ain't gonna lie.
They were 40 years old,
I
Chuck, but
ain't gonna lie, guys.
No, but
I
really-
took a pay cut when I got to the league, baby.
But you know what? By the way, you know, Stacey was recruited by DePaul.
Yes.
And so Jim Molinari, who was my roommate here in Chicago, so there was we're in a car, Mole's driving, and we're in a car. It's a torrential rainstorm. We're about 4 blocks away from Alumni Hall, and we see Terry Cummings with a coat over his head to protect from the rain. And he said, you know what, Chuck, I'd love to stop and give him a ride. I can't. That's an NCAA violation.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
Coach Ray was a stickler. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't care whether it was Mark Aguirre, Terry Cummings, Rod Strickland, Dallas Comage, DePaul. No, I said, Mo, you got to stop. Put him in the car. He goes, can't do it. NCAA violation. And here we was 3.5 blocks away from Alumni Hall, walking in the rain.
I'm gonna tell you, my coach would stop and pick me up. He didn't stop and pick me up. Matter of fact, he'd probably take me to go get something to eat. You hungry, Stace? Let's go get a burger over there. Let's go to A&W get a burger right now.
Billy Tubbs.
Yeah.
Double,
but I ain't gonna lie though.
cheese?
But there is a thing that goes on in college basketball where, depending on your rank. Okay, so my first 2 years, I was like the sixth man. So I was on a little low on the totem pole. And I remember my going into my sophomore year. After my sophomore year, I go to my coach who was in charge of the jobs, and he gave all the jobs out. So I go to him. I got my girlfriend who ended up being my wife at the time. I go up to him and she goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to visit my coach. I'm going to try to get a better job this summer because the summer before I worked construction. It's a hot ass summer and it was hot. It was terrible." So I go to him. I say, "Coach Mims," I said, "Can I get a better job this year? Can I get a job with air conditioning? Can I get one of those jobs where you just turn the water faucet on and then go home? Can I get one of those jobs?" He said, "This is what he told me." He said, "You all conference?" I said, "No." He said, "You all American?" I said, "No." He goes, "You player of the year?" I said, "No." "You on Olympic team?" I said, "No, man, no, I'm not on none of those." He said, "Well, if you get on those, then we can get you a better job." And he made me listen, man. You talking about some motivation? That was like a kick in the gut in front of your girl. It embarrassed me in front of my girl. I went from being 6'10" to like 5'10". I walked out there with my tail between my legs. I was so embarrassed. And she goes, "Wow, he's mean." And I'm like, "Oh man." So that whole summer, I'm digging ditches. I'm out in the hot sun doing the same job I was doing the summer before, building a racetrack, a horse racetrack. I'm down. I'm so far in the ground putting pipe in, the big pipes that they used to do the skateboarding in. I'm putting those pipes in, man. We're so deep in Oklahoma red clay dirt. It's so hot, Mark. I think I'm seeing the devil. I think I'm in hell because it's so hot. I'm like, the devil's gonna pop out sooner or later because we're so far in the ground. Because you look up and you can't even see the top of anything except the sky. That's how deep you're down in there. Yeah. So so one day I was sitting down and I was with a guy. I think God puts people in your life that you least expect to give you messages, angels. I believe that.
Kind of like how you met Whisper.
No, he's a devil. No, he's no. I don't know.
He's got the hot sauce.
No, forget that guy. But so this guy's like this guy probably was in his 40s, but he looked like he's like 60s because he was weathered because he all he did was construction.
Son, yeah.
So I said, "How long have you been doing this?" His name was Mike. I said, "Mike, how long have you been doing this?" "Oh, I've been doing it since I was 18. I'm 42 now." And I was like, "You've been doing it?" I go, "You've been doing this for that
Stacey's
many
like,
years?"
"Hell no."
So he goes, "Yeah, and I've been doing this for a long time." I said, "You don't have any wife or kids?" He goes, "No." And I there's no way I can have a wife and kids because I move around too much. I said, "Where's your home?" So he's from Lexington, Kentucky. He said, "But I haven't been to Lexington, Kentucky in over 15 years." He said, "My home is where the job is." Yeah. So he goes to all these construction sites where they're building something for 5 years, 8-year projects. So that's where he stays. Yep. So he's been everywhere. Like he's been out there on the Gulf where they built the oil thing and that big thing that sits out in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere, which I would never do. But he's out there and he's helped build those things. Yeah. So I'm like, man, this guy's got an interesting life. So he tells me, he said, "Hey," he said, they tell me you're a pretty good basketball player." And I go, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm decent." I said, "My coach is holding me back, but I'm really good." So he says to me, he goes, "Well, why are you out here? Why are you doing this?" I said, "Well, it's a summer job. It pays good. I'm kind of forced to be out here because I'm low on the totem pole." So he tells me, he said, "Let me tell you something." He said, "If you're as good as they say that you are, you need to focus on school and focus on your grade and basketball and not do this. This is going to tell you don't want to do this, child, because I'm telling you firsthand, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. I've been doing this for over 20-some years, and then, I had to do it because I dropped out of high school, don't have a college education, don't have a high school education, and I have nothing to fall back on, so you don't need to do this." And so I was like, listen to him, like, man, I'd already known that because I was digging ditches in the hot sun. I was like, I gotta be a CEO. I can't be working. I can't be doing this kind of work. This hard labor. So I was like, okay, I went back. So the next year is when I exploded. Like I just blew up on the scene. I averaged like 23 points a game, 10 rebounds, whatever, on the All-American team, whatever. So at the end of the season, I go to that same coach who embarrassed me in front of my girl, Coach Mims. I know you watched my show, and you know I'm not lying. So I go up there, I say, "Coach," I said, "I'm ready for that." No, he tells me, "You ready for that summer job? I got that summer job for you." He goes, "You All-American? You All-Conference? Yeah, and you going to the Olympic trials. What do you want to do?" You know what I told him? I want the Wayman Tisdale plan. You know what the Wayman Tisdale plan was?
No.
He didn't work. All he did all summer long was relax and have fun. And he lived in a nice place. He had a nice little like apartment, that are now the residents in that are like those extended stays. Yeah. He was in those. Those were not extended stays back then. Those were like homes where people like doctors come in and rent out and everything. He had one of those. He had a big screen TV. I mean, he had all. He drove an Eldorado. So when I was in this Eldorado, I'm like, and he'd honk the horn. All the girls would come out of the dorm. I go, this is where I want to be. And he used to tell me.
Motivation.
He used to tell me. He said, Stacey. He goes. You see all this stuff here? He says, if you play the way they think you can play, this will all be yours. I said, oh, you ain't got to tell me twice. So then I was on the Wayman Tisdale plan. I didn't have to work. I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was just go up there and see Sugar Daddy.
Did you ever run
I had
into
an
that guy
NIL America. I was on the first NIL person. They didn't call it NIL back then. They called it, come and get it and leave. Keep your mouth closed. Don't say nothing.
Stacey, you ever run into that guy again that gave you the wisdom?
No, it was an angel, Chuck. He was gone. He was gone. Matter of fact, he was gone a week after my last day there. He was gone.
He
He
got
was going to
crushed by a
Louisiana.
flight, but that's another story.
But you know what? Yeah, I mean, like I said, God puts people in your lives, at opportune times where you need like some advice or some kind of energy to get you on the right track. I've had a couple of those situations, man. Like, you sit there and scratch your head and like, wow, how did that happen?
Stacey, we always talk about your rings. What was the darkest moment as a player that you faced?
Man, darkest moment. I'll probably say the darkest moment was going from the penthouse to the outhouse when they traded me to Minnesota. I was like, I didn't know what losing was until, like, I thought all NBA teams played hard. I just thought they competed, because when you got the blueprint in Chicago and you've seen how the coaches prepare, you see how the players prepare, you just assume every team is like that. They just don't have the talent. They don't have a Michael Jordan, but they all have the same approach. No, they don't. No, I got to Minnesota and I pushed for the trade. I pushed to be traded because that Horace left, Scott Williams left, MJ retired. Tony Kukoc basically were going to turn the team to Tony. Mm-hmm. And so, basically like it was just a rebuild. And Phil couldn't guarantee that I was going to start. And I was a little upset about that because I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I played this role. I've been a starter. I played well. My numbers prove I'm a starter in this league. I played well when you started me. I played well in the reserve role. I need some assurance, like that's how it's going to be, because I don't want to be a reserve on a rebuild. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
sure.
he couldn't guarantee me that. And Jerry tried to talk me out of, and I had David Falk, who was the most powerful agent at the time, and Jerry, tried to talk me out of it, like, don't do this. I don't want to trade you. Da da da. Please think it over. Da da. I'm like, Jerry, I got to go see what I can do. I said I played this role. I helped. I've been part of 3 championship teams. I want to see what I can do now. Everybody else got their money. Everybody else got re-signed. I want to see what I can do now. Yeah. And I need some time. And Jack McCloskey was the GM in Minnesota, and he absolutely loved me. So when the trade happened, he was the first person I talked to. And he said, hey, look, I know you were handcuffed in Chicago. We're going to take those handcuffs off. We want you to shoot. We want you to score anytime, any way you can. And I was like, oh, thank God, I'm going to be free. So I got there, and the first day, Mark, the very first day, you have to take a physical, and then they give you a choice whether you want to sit out and wait until like a day or two to play. I said, absolutely not. I said, I want to play tomorrow. So we were playing Houston and playing the Rockets, Olajuwon, and that team. And
you were traded in season?
Yeah, I was traded in season. The second at like the trade deadline. And so we go in there and the shoot around. They're going to shoot around that morning to work out. So I get to the Target Center where they have their practice facility. I'm out there early. They said 10 o'clock shoot around. I'm Chicago. You're there an hour plus, before practice. Yeah. So I'm out there by myself. No one's out there. There's no trainers. There's no equipment managers. There's nobody there. So I'm like, wow, this is like, 9:30 now, 9:45 starts to come. I don't see anybody. 10 o'clock, here come the coaches. There's no players. Only player was there was Mike Brown and Tellus Frank. There were only 2 players there. And I was just like, where the rest of the team? They got a game night. They got a shoot around the night. And they didn't play the night before. So they were off like 2 or 3 days. So there was no reason why they shouldn't have had shoot around. Plus, you got a new player coming in that's going to play. Yeah. So we want to get him caught up to speed. He's going to play tonight. There's 2 players there. This is how crazy it was. They started looking up top. There's people running on treadmills. They started bringing guys down. Hey, can you come down here and walk through this offense? And they knew the offense better than I did. So the people on the treadmill come down.
They were regulars.
They were running the offense. And I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute, how do these people know the offense better than I do? There's like a dude running on the treadmill. And then you had the coaches out there. So there was only 2 players, three players total, including me, that were at the shoot around. So I asked Mike Brown, I said, Mike Brown, where are all the players at? Isn't shoot around mandatory? they come if they want to come. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, wait, you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you really get to see
Well,
what's
Mark
going
and
on.
I remember we
behind
thought that was a story he was always telling. And
Yeah.
then Mike Brown comes on the show and he's like, that was absolutely
Yes.
The janitor came down and played with us.
Listen, the mentality, like in Chicago, people value time. If Phil Jackson told us the bus was leaving at 3:00, he give you a 5-minute grace period. He didn't care if you were Michael Jordan, whoever. If you're late past 3:05, that bus is gone.
Yep.
So you better find a way to get to wherever we need to go. The same thing with the plane. The plane was at 2:30. He gave you 2:35. If you went there at 2:35, you come late, running out there, that plane's going down the runway. You better call Karen Stack and get a plane to get it. And there's been many times that's happened. Yeah. But guys learn, like, okay, we can't be late, But in this league, when I got traded to Minnesota, we sat on a runway waiting for J.R. Ryder for almost 3 hours, waiting for him on the runway. And then they're like, oh, JR's on his way. What was that, 24 hours ago? He was out partying and I mean, him and Christian Laettner, both on the same team. Oh my God. That was, I could write a book about that situation. Because Christian, listen, and it's amazing because I always thought Christian going from playing for Duke and Coach K and him being a winner, that his mindset was totally different. Like he's coming in, no business, no messing around. This is what we're gonna do. Man, I think the losing, and that's how culture can kill a kid. That's how culture can kill a kid. You put him in a bad situation with bad role models. A guy like Christian Laettner, who's highly decorated, player of the year, I think, twice in college, played on the dream team, comes into Minnesota. He's on a team with a bunch of guys who don't care, don't want to win. And you just, you come in there, you want to win, but then you just get beaten down to the point you start to act like these guys. And I think that's what happened to Christian Laettner, because Christian Laettner had a chance to be a great player in the NBA. He was a very highly skilled guy. He could pass, he could shoot. In this game today, Christian Laettner would be a stud as a stretch four. He would be an absolute beast as a stretch four.
Yes.
But that's why I say the mentality and culture is so important in your building. If you got a culture that guys don't care, they don't give a damn, they just come to get the check on the 1st and the 15th, and you have young players, let's say we got a Modest and he's on a team with a bunch of bad attitude players who don't give a crap about their lifestyle, they're playing. They only care about what they wear to the game. They only care about what kind of car they drive. Then he will follow suit to that because that's the only thing he knows. He's going to be as good as his veterans are. Okay, you put him in a negative environment, most likely he's going to succumb to that. You put him in a situation where he's in a locker room now where guys care, guys, they want to come out and play and compete. Some of those kids out there, Kobe White. People can say whatever they want about Kobe White. Kobe White is a winner and a competitor. He wants to win. All those guys on that roster want to win. They want to compete. Did they win 50 games this year? No. Were they in the playing game? Yes. But it still doesn't take the fact that they want to win, that they want to compete. Because they could easily could have said, let's just tank the season. Who cares? I want to sit out. I don't want to play anymore. They didn't. So Modest is learned, and Julian Phillips has seen some of these guys. Patrick Williams has seen these guys. Now it hasn't really parlayed him to be the player they think he can be, but they're with good veterans. You come in this league, man, you got bad veterans, man. It's tough for a talented kid to beat that because there's more of that negative energy than positive energy. You might have one veteran on that team say, no, this is not how you do it, young fella. Do it this way. Don't listen to them. I've seen it. I've seen it.
I'll say this for the Bulls, putting wins and losses aside. Since I've been here, my first year was Derek's first year. Whether it's been, the coaches, I think the Bulls organization, and it starts with the ownership, they want high character people. And they have had high character people. You look at the teams with Vinny and Tibbs, who was on that team, with Derek and Joe and Lou and the bench mob and, Taj. And Taj's still in the league.
Yeah,
think
we were
about
talking
that.
last week.
James Johnson's still in the league. They were drafted the same year. But even to this phase of the Bulls have some really good, solid players in that locker room that if something needs to be said, it's going to be said.
I still think though, Chuck, they need to get some pit bulls though. They need to get.
But every team says that.
You got to get.
It's hard to find those.
You got to
players.
get like we had them in Javonte Green. You need those kind of players in your locker room that are high energy guys. When a team like you go back to that Miami game where the Bulls came out super flat.
Yep.
Okay, that's when those kind of guys come in and spark you. That's when those guys kind of come in there and they get the crowd into it on a defensive play, a block shot, a dunk. You get that energy. and I think that's they need to get guys like that in the locker room.
Do you think
because-
Io's a guy like that?
Yeah, I think Io's that way, but he wasn't there for the Miami game.
No.
It's what we had. You got to go with who's there. And I love Io. I think Io has worked himself into a very, very good NBA guard.
Yes.
And it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough situation. There's going to be a lot of decisions need to be made because now they also saw what Trey Jones can do, and they also saw what Kobe can do now, given the opportunity to play in a different role, a scoring guard role. And then Josh, they got a decision with him. And I think, they're going to have to pay him, they're going to have to pay him something because I think there's going to be a team that's going to push them. But there's not a lot of teams that can afford them.
Yeah,
but I think the Nets, if the Nets really want to make it interesting, they could put a package together that could make the Bulls have to pay him close to $30 million. Because I'm one of these believers that, like there should be levels to the salaries. When you talk $30 and $40 million players, the first thing that comes to my mind is Luka's, Steph Curry's. When I'm thinking high end $40, $50 million players. 30 million, I know you got to talk about you got to say, okay, this is where the league is going, and now this is where the salaries are. I get that. But man, it can really handcuff a team that is a mid-level team right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It could handcuff you for the future where you can't go get anybody because you got to remember the next two free agencies are going to be some big names out there. You got Giannis. If they lose and get bounced out of here 4-0, don't be surprised. Giannis, all the smiling and being yeah, I want to stay in Milwaukee my whole life. He's already made it a point to mention to people yeah, I'd like to see all the European players in big cities. That's not something he's just saying.
But see, here's Stacey. One of the issues, if you're going to make a trade like that, I mean, the Lakers Mavericks trade came out of nowhere, and essentially
that should have been
1 for 1.
voided.
Okay, it was 1 for 1. If you trade a player such as Giannis, or let's use him as an example, the team in question, you can give 5 number 1 picks, but they're also going to want players in return. So when Giannis goes to, team A, B, or C, hypothetically, if that happens, you're going to have to look at their roster. Is he any better now with this club than he was with the Bucks? I mean,
the money's got to add up to $50 million.
You got to, yeah. I mean, you got to throw some. You got to be very creative. If you look at the Bulls situation, you're gonna have to be very creative if that was even a possibility. I mean, what will Kobe White be making at that point? You got Patrick Williams on a $90 million contract. So you have some big pieces. I know one thing. I'm not giving up Modest. I know that he's not gonna be in that trade talk. Even if it was for Giannis, I'm sorry. I'm not giving him away.
Well, I would think that is a discussion probably way, way down the road because I don't think the Bulls are in a position right now.
That's only a couple years away. It's not like 10 years.
Yeah, but
you're talking like the next year and 2 years.
How old is Giannis right now?
30.
30? All right, so his
He got a lot of miles on him. He
Yeah.
was a pro overseas when he was a teenager.
But he doesn't look like he's slowing down. He don't like he's slowing down because the reason they're losing Indiana ain't because of him.
No, not because of him.
Because the other guys are not showing up. And then you also look at, this is what I said about coaches too, not developing guys when you have a chance to develop them. Doc Rivers is a great coach. I'm not criticizing him, but he hasn't played any of his younger guys any meaningful minutes so they're ready for this moment. Now you've putting these guys out there. You didn't expect Dame to miss, the first game or most of the end of towards the season with a blood clot. That's something you can't prepare for. But you can prepare to get some of these younger players, the Jackson kids, some of these kids.
They gave up on A.J. Johnson
Yeah, they
for
gave-
Kyle
yeah.
Kuzma.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma's done nothing but kill him. He has. I mean, the
He
guy's
had nothing in the
Hey,
first
I'll tell you
playoff
what,
game.
A.J.
Zeros all
Johnson,
the way across the board.
He's going to be a really good player for Washington.
Mhm.
I like
Great
that kid.
athlete, yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I mean, so you don't develop your younger talent, and now you need them to play. And you're shorthand. You're playing like a 6-7 man rotation against a team who's very deep. I said from the very get go, that's a tough matchup for them because they have the pieces and the versatility to give Milwaukee problems, even if Dame Lillard would have been healthy.
Yeah.
They just got too many guys they can run at him. They got too many guys at the guard position. They all defend, and everybody can say what they want to. Everybody needs to get a TJ McConnell. Okay, you got to have a TJ McConnell on your roster. If that kid ever became a free agent again, I would hope the Bulls would go out and try to get him because that kid comes in that game. He makes an impact on the game. One, he picks up full court, 94 feet. He comes in. He's tough, hard-nosed. He can score. He can shoot it. He's got a high basketball IQ. And when I say that, sometimes people laugh. But you watch him in these games, he makes an immediate impact when he comes into the game.
He plays a lot bigger than he is.
Oh, and he's tough. He's a tough kid.
And you know what? When he came into the league, remember, he was undrafted. And he came in the league out of Arizona with Philadelphia when they were in the process, right? And you know what? He got some time because of that. They had to throw him in because Philly had no one. And I bet you it's a different Philadelphia management now than when he was with the Sixers. But I would have to say that they probably regret losing him, the type of player he was and what he brought that locker room.
Teams don't value that, Chuck. Teams don't value that. Everybody can't be a superstar, but you can be a superstar in your role. And teams don't value guys like that. They're like, oh, we can go find 10 guys like him. No, you can't. He's a coach's son. His whole family are into coaching. And you could tell he's a coach on the floor. He's probably going to be a great coach one day. Those guys are invaluable, man. When you have those kind of guys on your team, that first of all, they're not going to rock the boat. They're not going to be complaining about their minutes or how much time they're getting. They're going to come out. They're going to come to practice every day. They're going to push the guy in front of them. They're going to make the guy in front of them be better. And then when they get their chance in the game, they're gonna produce, and that's what he does.
Look at how McConnell has nurtured and developed a relationship with Nembhard. Look at Nembhard right now. I mean, Nembhard is a major player in this league in terms of understanding his role, fits into Rick's system with Indiana, and some of that has to be credited to the leadership of McConnell. And the nuances of playing that role off the ball. McConnell plays both. He plays, but
Ty Jerome in Cleveland.
Yep.
You know, Ty Jerome goes and plays at Golden State. You know, he was bouncing around through the G League, back and forth, Phoenix. You know, wasn't getting any kind of traction anywhere. You know, but then he goes to Golden State and he fits into their rotation. And then Cleveland brings him in. And he's been phenomenal for what they need on that team. He's been phenomenal. We had Max Strus. Max Strus, a shooter, 6 big size guard. I mean, listen, I would not be surprised. I still think Boston's got to be the favorite, but I would not be surprised if Cleveland doesn't beat them in the Eastern Conference Final. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, especially if Tatum's wrist injury.
I think that's a big key right there. If Tatum isn't right, remember what was it with Kelly Olynyk when he was playing with Boston? He got tangled up with Kevin Love, and Love hurt his shoulder. And that basically, when that happened, Cleveland had no shot of beating Golden State for that particular series.
Yep.
Yeah, injuries always play a big factor.
And the Raptors series with Golden State. If Durant's healthy, Golden State probably wins that series.
Well, I'll go even further. If Trey Jones doesn't get hurt, we beat Miami.
Absolutely.
Missing Trey Jones that last couple of weeks of the season,
I'll tell you what,
was glaring.
Trey Jones, I love Trey Jones. I hope he's back with the Bulls. I don't get involved in the upstairs
stuff. Our pay scale, Chuck.
Yeah, yeah, not my pay scale, but I'm a big Trey Jones fan.
But
that
two of
guy
the greatest,
tough.
Two of the greatest broadcasters in the NBA. We got them right here on Gimme the Hot Sauce, Stacey and Chuck Swirsky. Chuck, thanks for coming in today.
Yep.
We appreciate it. Hey, on the way out, I got to give a shout out to my son Eric and his beautiful wife Mary. They had a baby girl earlier this week, Scarlett June. She's a beautiful baby girl. I had a chance to hold her in my arms, and there's no feeling quite
That's
like
awesome.
that. I know Tim just became a grandparent recently, and you know what that's all about.
As I texted you, they'll break your heart, won't they? As soon as you hold them, like, oh,
Beautiful
no.
baby girl, no question.
Congratulations.
About it. So,
Yeah,
congratulations
congrats,
to them.
man.
Chuck, thanks again for
Thank
coming
you.
on the show, and
you,
until
Chuck.
next time, Stacey.
Oh, look.
Oh, we got the picture.
got the
All right,
picture.
there's
All right.
Grandpa.
Oh, there's Gramps. Oh, Paul.
Scarlett June.
That's
She's
awesome.
a beauty. She's a keeper. So, and
there's
there's
your
the
son,
there's
Mary.
the happy couple. That was
Oh.
shortly after she was born.
That's
Look,
awesome.
almost got a smile on her face already.
Oh,
Yeah.
look
She
at
knows she
her.
got a
Yeah,
good
look
life.
at that.
She's looking at her
That's
dad.
great.
Oh, I love my
Yeah.
daddy.
Thanks for bringing those up, Cisco. We appreciate it very
I
much.
got some news.
Yeah. All right.
Dun, 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 dun. America, I'm still sexy.
Wow.
Just want to throw that out there. Just in case y'all forgot, I'm still sexy. That's breaking news. Dun, 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 dun.
Shameless.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
Shameless.
All right, time to bring down the curtain on the show. Chuck, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Stacey.
Drop it on safely. Beep, beep. I'm still sexy.
defend that corner. That's the last time I'm going to say it. Williams